Record. It's record. It's not go.
Okay, being a few minutes after 7, I'd like to call the Arundel Planning Board to order. It's May 9th. We're at Mildred Elementary School. I'd like to start with a roll call. Tom again. Mark Bob Coon.
Roger Moore.
John McIndra.
Ted Ridley Planner.
Tonight we're going to look at the, and hopefully disapprove the minutes of April 25th. We have a public hearing scheduled for Arundel Machine. We'll deal with the existing application after the hearing. I'll have new application, item 4, actually. I have a new application, North Chapel Common. Then we'll go to proposed revisions to the land use ordinance, planner's report, other business, and then we'll open up for public comment. As usual, any of the public, they need to be heard and asked at any time. So the minutes of April 25th. Does everybody have a chance to review them? John, you weren't here, right? We have enough to...
The three, I'll move that we approve them as written. Second that.
Have a motion to approve the minutes, have a second to approve the minutes of April 25th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
We have 4 in favor, 1 abstained. John, as he wasn't here.
I abstained. That's a good day.
Off the board. Okay, we'll move on to public hearing. So I'd like to open the public hearing. It's 7:04 for the Arundel Machine Tool Company. It's a proposal to construct 2,000 square foot standalone garage in support of their existing manufacturing facility. Here for the public hearing. Ma'am?
Anybody interested in the public, I would certainly make a presentation. If not,
Are you here for this particular item?
No, I am here for the Arundel Barn Playhouse at a later time, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you.
There being no public here, I think we can save your presentation the one we just go over. I'll close the public hearing at 7:04, 7:09, okay, something like that. You can barely see up there. And we'll move on to the existing application of the Arundel Machine Tool Company. Well,
Yes, Paul, would you please use those fancy easels?
at the last meeting, the board had a few comments in regards to the application. It was pretty minor. I think it was Tom wanted the dimension back in, showing it was to 9 height.
Yeah.
That was a good catch. I did put that layer back on. We didn't have the note to show that there was a 30.54% lot coverage, and that was also in the letter that's sent to you guys during the preliminary application. Other than that, I did modify the note for the DEP permitting. I did say the last paragraph, the department approved the application on April 16, 2013, and I referenced the DEP order number on that also. So, again, it's pretty straightforward. It's a 40 by 50, 2,000 square foot building. No utilities whatsoever. It's just basically cold storage for his lawn equipment, I guess, and snow blows and that type of thing. So, I'll be glad to answer any questions the board might have.
open it up to the board. Huh?
Thing that I was looking for. That's good.
Marty, any other real questions? Right?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Have you reviewed all those notes, because I don't have them out in front of me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think we had asked for anything other than those when we went through the original application. Decided that a site walk wasn't required on this particular site. With almost everybody familiar with it and gone out and it's really being an application we were aware of. Next step, Mr. Planner?
As you say, Paul made all the revisions that you had asked. I checked those out. You had asked, and we were not given extra measurements, right? So basically, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we go to Reading the findings of fact and a motion for approval.
Somebody on the board?
I'd like to make a motion, we run through the findings of facts.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll make the findings of fact.
All right, I will read the findings of fact for the planning board. Whereas on April 25th, 2013, the Arundel Planning Board received a preliminary site plan application from the Arundel Machine Tool Company to build 2,000 square foot standalone garage on the western side of the existing parking lot at a 7.76 acre parcel located at 20 Technology Drive, tax map 12, lots 37.3 or 7-3 in the BI district. Whereas as part of the preliminary site plan application, the applicant has received a stormwater management law permit amendment from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection dated April 12th, 2013, for all proposed improvements on the site. Whereas on May 9th, 2013, the Arundel Planning Board conducted a public hearing on the project in accordance with Section 9(8)(f)(3)(c) of the Arundel Land Use Ordinance. And whereas the Planning Board has determined the following findings of fact and notice of decision. Findings of fact: the owners of the property are DCB Properties LLC. The applicant is Marcel Bertrand. The property is located at 20 Technology Drive, tax map 12, lot 7-3 in the BI district. The property is approximately 7.76 acres in size. The property consists of 40,000 square foot manufacturing facility, 47,120 square foot parking and loading area, serviced by from Technology Drive with on-site septic and public water from KKWW. 6, the applicant proposes to construct a 2,000 square foot garage on the northwest side of the existing parking lot for the purpose of providing storage for snow blowing and maintenance support and intended maintaining grounds in the manufacturing facility. 7, the proposed garage will not require electrical, sewer, water, telephone service, and therefore will require no expansion of on-site services. 8, the proposed garage is an accessory use of the manufacturing facility and therefore will not generate any additional parking demand, nor result in a net loss of employee parking. On April 12th, 2013, the applicant received approval for modifications to existing DEP stormwater management permits associated with the proposed creation of approximately 3,500 square feet of additional impervious surface. The applicant is proposing the installation of several stone curb edge along the north and south sides of the garage to accommodate storm runoff from the proposed garage with a sheet flow discharge designed with grass perimeter through a 25-foot vegetated buffer strip before entering a wetland. Number 10, the applicant proposes to install a standard sill fence that tills the slope between the proposed garage and the wetland in the southern and western perimeter of the building. 11, the applicant is proposing no additional lighting in the exterior of the garage or in the parking lot. 12, documentation provided by the applicant include existing conditions plan, site plan, grading, utility, and layout plan, and a detail sheet prepared by Paul Gadboy, PE, dated March 8, 2013, with revisions through May 1st, 2013, along with stormwater calculations prepared by Paul Gadboy, PE. Conformance with site plan approval criteria. After due review and consideration, the Arundel Planning Board has determined the application being conforms to the criteria of Section 9(8)(f)(4) of the Arundel Land Use Ordinance as follows. A, the proposed project conforms to all standards of the zoning district and meets or exceeds performance standards specified in Section 7, 8, and 9.8 of this ordinance.
If I can stop you right there, wasn't it what the board was going to do these
Each one of
individually?
these individual.
Correct.
So, I'll move to approve point A.
8.
I'll second that.
Motion second, any further discussion, all in favor?
Yeah.
Carried unanimous.
Point B, the criteria B. The proposed project has received all main DEP stormwater permits.
Move to accept.
Second.
Tom is the second, just for the minute. Any discussion, all in favor?
Yeah.
Unanimous.
Criteria C, the proposed project does not unreasonably impact public safety and fire protection, will not create a financial burden to the town of Arundel in the provision of emergency services and law enforcement to the project site and neighborhood.
Move to accept.
Second.
Have a motion to accept, second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Unanimous.
Criteria D, the proposed project will not have an adverse impact upon the quality of surface or groundwater resources.
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion to accept, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Unanimous?
Criteria E, the project provides adequate stormwater management facilities, produce no additional people runoff from the site during a 25-year storm event, will not have an undue impact on municipal stormwater facilities or downstream properties.
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion to accept, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, all unanimous?
Criteria F, the proposed project will not have an adverse off-site and on-site impact upon the existing vehicular and pedestrian circulation systems within the community or the neighborhood.
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion to accept, Tom, second, Roger. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Unanimous?
Criteria G, the proposed project will not have an adverse impact upon environmental quality, critical wildlife habitats, marine resources, important cultural resources, or the visual quality of the neighborhood, surrounding environs, or the community.
Move to accept.
Second motion.
Tom, Roger, second.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor? I'm just trying to get it right for the
Unanimous.
recording, and I guess we're good.
Criteria H, the proposed project will not produce noise, odors, dust, debris, glare, solar obstruction, or other nuisances that will adversely impact the quality of life of surrounding parcels.
Move to accept.
Second.
A motion, have second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
That is unanimous as well.
Criteria I, the proposed project will have a positive fiscal impact on municipal government. Some criteria.
How do we know that?
That's a,
How do we
For
know that?
discussion, it has to
but
go.
it's a criteria, so.
Okay, I'll move to accept that.
Second that.
Have a motion, Tom, second, Roger. Open for discussion.
I'm
Tom?
just curious.
How will it have a positive
Have a
effect?
positive?
Well,
It's
because
not
of
putting
tax on
any
it?
kids in the school.
And it's taxable.
It's taxable, it's not putting kids in the school, it is not requiring any additional fire or police protection. It's not requiring any infrastructure improvements that tax the town of Arundel's existing infrastructure, nor will it require any kind of TIF financing or other kinds of infrastructure extensions by the townspeople.
Okay.
Therefore, will generate over time a positive cash flow for town tax assessment purposes.
Can't question, why do we even mention TIP if it's not even in town?
Because I'm just throwing it out there as a potential.
So that we understand for future ones as well. I'd like the explanation. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Therefore,
Roger?
I'm fine.
Okay, yeah, unanimous. I just want
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Therefore, be it resolved that based on the above findings and conclusions, the Arundel Planning Board hereby approves the preliminary site plan or application of Arundel Machine Tool Company to construct a 2,000 square foot garage on 7.7 acre parcel located at 20 Technology Drive, tax map 12, lot 7-3 in BI, subject to the following conditions. 1, no certificate of occupancy shall be issued for the garage until the design engineer certifies in writing to the town planner that all improvements have been completed in accordance with these approved plans. 2, all soil erosion control devices shall be installed prior to the commencement of site work, and no site work shall be shut down for the winter until all required soil stabilization mechanisms prescribed herein are made effective. So approved by the Arundel Planning Board this 9th day of May 2013.
I will move to accept this as read.
And you voted it.
There were two minor spelling errors, shall, we had Hal, the noise I bought. That's all.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion to approve as read, Mr. Final approval with the condition. Have a second by John. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, unanimous approval, good job, thank you. I guess we want to sign my parts.
It's on this one, yeah.
Yeah, I have a master copy.
Is that my last one?
Yep. I got a thicker one if you want one.
I can write with you.
Yes, you do.
4 feet. Not a problem. I can get you tomorrow though.
You want a copy of that? If that one's too thin, there's the thicker one. Yeah, don't worry about it. Sweet and John Hancock.
This is the one for
Folks,
the...
if you would please sign in. System is not here to... No, she's taking them now. Make sure that it's Thursday.
We're going to leave that there and you guys can just...
Yeah, something like that.
You just move over.
I'll move after I sign.
No, you can sign, they can just refer to the state. I like everything in there. This is very important. We have limits.
Gotta help us, let it take it.
Yeah. Roger has that. Bob, did you sign that?
No. I think got that one.
Here. One of these, you mean?
You don't want it.
Okay, what for the side?
Excuse me, that's not you. You don't want some of them?
Sit right here.
No,
No, not this one, this one. Here.
right here, this is the master copy right here.
You haven't signed it?
No, I haven't.
Nobody,
Nobody signed it?
no, that's why I said here, this is all statement.
Yeah. I'll leave
So you get
a
copies.
space open for you, Bob.
Okay.
Congratulations, you just purchased $1 million insurance.
Yes, I should have read it.
And I'm the beneficiary.
Your payments will be
You're
taken
an
out of your
split.
check automatically starting the first of the month.
I didn't know you were going to bring in such an entourage. No, I honestly don't. I brought about 4. I mean, I wrote one. My computer had crashed. I probably emailed it to him early.
Okay, we have your Mylar,
I was gonna give you the,
2 copies and
what's that?
Like that.
these all come back to you, this comes back to you.
Yep, and then that. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Them went very good. We'll move on to item number 2, new application, North Chapel Common Museum, the conditional use application as museums are authorized as a conditional use in the R3 area. This is a proposal to develop a museum and community gathering space consisting of 3 relocated historic structures totaling approximately 2,738 square feet. and the construction of a 36 by 90 replica meeting house on the road. I'd, at this point, turn it over to Tad Stunza.
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself from this as an abutter, so I'll be moving over to the other side.
Okay, John, thank you. Going to the dark side over there. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're here. Usually we're kind of talking out there to ourselves.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this application comes to you. This is the first time you've seen this. It's a conditional use application for North Chapel Common, which is a multi-building facility that the Arundel Historic Society is proposing to build out off of Limerick Road on a 3-acre parcel of land. It consists of essentially three existing buildings, and one proposed new facility. It is intended to be a museum and neighborhood, or I should say, community gathering place in which both the society can conduct its activities and have fundraisers, as well as provide space for community activities such as Boy Scout troop meetings and whatever other functions that would be available. They would then provide the space for this to be available. This is the first time you've seen it. As I said, it is a conditional use. Museums are conditional uses in this particular zone. They are permitted, assuming they meet all the conditions. I don't want to steal the thunder of the Historic Society. They can do a better presentation of what their intent is. So I would defer to them to make their presentation, and then I will, after that, comment on some concerns that the board may have.
And who's Bill?
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Will Conway. I'm a landscape architect, Kennebunk resident with my family in Arundel. I've been working with this group for a couple of years on the development of this plan, and get my easel to square away. Thank you. So this is the site. Tad mentioned it's 3 acres. It's a narrow, linear parcel. This is Limerick Road. You may be familiar with this area. It's a big field. Route 111 would be more or less along the bottom of the page here. And the proposal is to sort of develop a community, if you will, of these older buildings. The One House and Burnham House, which are both situated on Route 111, and then the Burnham House barn would be situated here. So the sort of position like that. Tad mentioned a new building, new construction. We refer to it as the North Chapel Meeting House. And in your packet, it will be fashioned after a structure of historical significance in this area. It will be basically replicating the form and window pattern of that building. So it's sort of an enclave, if you will, of these historic buildings. The access would be here from Limerick Road, coming into parking areas here, which we're going to talk about, I think, some more parking. It's sort of a situation where this would be proposed as year-round plowed parking with 2 areas of overflow parking here and there, essentially to accommodate uses associated with that building. Not so much these smaller ones, but when this building is up and running, these would be necessary for events such as Sabine suppers, that kind of thing, which would occur typically not in the winter time. So the seasonal parking use makes sense. There would be some walkways provided. Again, we're looking for sort of a low-key feel here. So these are proposed to be constructed of a stone dust or a reclaimed pavement material here, and site lighting fixtures, and there's some specifications in your packet. There'll just be a few of them. in these areas, and these would be sort of small lantern-like fixtures. We've looked at the drainage, and in your package also is a drainage study that was done courtesy of my firm, Sevago Technics, looking at the pre-development, post-development. Land generally slopes gradually in this direction here. There'll be an uphill swale to prevent drainage near the buildings. It'll be conveyed to by storm drains to a level spreader in this location in here, which would slow down and dissipate the water and release it into this area, which is owned by John and Donna Hendren, who have also issued also in your packet an easement for those purposes. The sort of other colors on the plan, sort of this light color here would be what we would propose it to be a mowed lawn area. This is a big hayfield, and sort of within the footprint of the site, we'd sort of marry into it. So along this edge and down around the bottom, that would also be not mowed. So sort of a blending into sort of the natural landscape of the site today. And that is sort of why we're here tonight, to begin the process of your review. And we welcome any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Yeah, this is early, this is first time we've done it. Why don't you get it in first?
Just a quick thought. If, as the project proceeds and develops, if there, where is it possibly in the plans for any future development if needed?
We don't anticipate that, Mr. Kane. This, if you will, this is the master plan. As you know, or may not, but these two buildings are presently on the site on Cribbing. Okay. And our, plan is to get those in place as soon as possible, hopefully this summer. This is sort of a longer term effort. We're not really sure, but at least at this point in time, there are no plans beyond what I presented.
I always know because we're always trying to look in the crystal ball.
Yeah.
Okay, and if it was going to possibly, I mean, it's on a 3-acre lot, and for parking or whatever else, but the crystal ball always has to be somewhere. I mean, if would it possibly move? Okay.
And this being conditional use, would simply any changes would require them to come back.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. The other limitation on this site is the ratio of impervious surfaces to lot area. And we're pretty close to that. And again, I think as a group, we're going to talk more about that this evening. But that would also be a limitation to any future development on it, unless the ordinance is revised.
Did they get the waiver from the selectmen for the administrative fees?
Yes.
Process? I didn't see that in the package. Should have verified that before we started. Yes. Well, I'm not sure how
If that had not been taken care of, they wouldn't be
Yeah.
before us.
Well,
Is there an area?
Bob, just a second.
What type of material are you going to use for that, the seasonal or temporary parking? Will that be impervious?
No. What we're proposing to do, it would be stabilized underneath, like 12 inches of gravel, but it would be 4 inches of loam and seed on the surface.
Donna, you had a comment?
Just a point of clarification, I think we'll find that waiver is the last page in the packet.
It is in here. Okay, thank you. I can get to the last page. Thank you.
No problem.
Are there going to be any facilities in these buildings? Like
Plumbing?
Plumbing facility?
Yes. Yes, it will. And, go ahead.
I didn't see anything on the plan designating either a holding tank or leach beds or leach fields?
Let me explain. This site is clay soil. There literally is no place on this property suitable for a septic system. We had a licensed site evaluator to do that analysis and coordinated with your plumbing inspector who's approved the holding tank for this project. And that's shown on the
Right, see the
utility plan.
1,000 gallon holding tank.
Yeah.
I didn't know for being the historical purposes, if we were gonna use Johnny houses.
Only ornament.
Not exactly.
The question regarding parking and paving, apparently you've had some discussion with staff about is this numbers and what the projected attendance is that why there's a question?
Yeah, the question arose because of how many personnel are going to actually be in the proposed meeting house. And also because the parking that's shown there, it looks like, at least from my calculations, and maybe Will can prove me wrong, but from my calculations, it looked like we need additional parking beyond the 25 spaces that are shown in front as the permit. And consequently, since we don't have a provision in our ordinance for anything but bituminous surface for our parking, that would make the overflow areas not qualify for parking unless they were seasonally, basically seasonal parking, allowed only during seasonal periods, which, as you recall, is basically May to, or actually April to October.
But that's what they would need this for, that same time period.
And that's part of the programming. I'm talking to Donna. Donna said, well, we want to have we'll have activities outside of that season that may involve some of that overflow parking. And that's where part of the problem came in, is that if that is being used outside of that seasonal time period, then it will have to meet the specification of having bituminous surface. Unless somewhere along the line we change the ordinance, which we've talked about changing the ordinance to allow more flexibility in surface parking surfaces, but thus far we have not.
So the ordinance would not permit pavers?
Pavers are considered impervious surfaces. Are you talking about solid pavers? Are you talking about grass-created or
Grass-created pavers.
No. So we don't have a provision for turf paving.
It has to be bituminous.
No,
Could it be?
The only thing that we allow is a crushed stone or a gravel, like and you have an MDOT type A, right? You know that thing? Yeah. So it's a crushed gravel, but we don't allow that for anything but seasonal parking spaces.
I'm not sure, you want this, excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I can ask, you want this to be ready for the summer? Is that your goal, to start putting the foundation in soon?
Yes.
I don't know if we can make a change to that before we need it. I would love to see less pavement requirements. I've always been thinking less is better as far as pavement.
Well, I would say a couple things to that. First of all, pavement is really not the look and feel and touch that we're after here. Yeah. We want a gravel parking facility just because of the nature of this facility. We want it to be as less commercial looking as possible. The other thing is I looked at, and I hadn't seen your memo until I got here, but after we spoke, Pat, I looked in the ordinance, and I looked in section Article 7.6.B2, which is the section in your ordinance that relates to parking standards.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you look at 7.6.B2, that's where it requires 2 inches by 2 minutes pavement for parking spaces of over 15. For commercial and industrial establishments. But this is a museum. And then I looked at, certainly we're not industrial. So then I looked at the definition for a commercial use in the zoning ordinance. And it defines a commercial use as the use of lands, buildings, or structures, the intent and result of which activity is the, quote, production of income from the buying and selling of goods and or services. Well, this is a non-profit organization. That activity is not occurring at this facility. So I would say the requirement for paving doesn't apply to this use. That's just my, on my, in between work and coming here looking at it. But, certainly something that we don't have to get through tonight. Tad and I talked about it this afternoon. We'll kind of work through it, but it's something that isn't in character and adds substantial cost to a group of people trying to create something with limited funding.
I understand from your presentation too that front here, the building that's going to be the North Chapel building is going to come later. So it's really, all of the first initial work is going to be to put in kind of a construction mode, get the rest of them in place too, et cetera. That how this is going to proceed.
Yeah, and it's really this building. It's really that building that would drive for the need for any parking other than, what's shown there. The overflow would only be necessary after that building is up and functioning.
And just for my own edification, the spaces in there are just to extend green into these areas.
Yes.
Yeah, I like the way you interpreted this thing. I have to review that.
Could you repeat again where you found that where it says commercial?
Page 6.
Commercial?
Page 6.
So it's
ordinance.
But as far as the, you said 7.6.
7.6B2.
And I can't find commercial or industrial.
Look at just the
7.6B,
That's the subheading.
Yeah, look at 7.6B.
Okay,
That's
what it applies.
Work for me.
I like that. I mean, I don't mind being proven wrong on this, but the only question I would ask is not one of the intentions of this space to be also fundraising, in which you will be selling goods for income purposes? No, it is non-profit.
But that comes under non-profit, so when you become under non-profit, it doesn't consider commercial.
I think if you look up non-profit, you have either a regular business or you have a non-profit.
Our designation, first of all, is educational, non-profit. So that's our primary concern. Fundraising is always secondary. It seems very primary right now because we're trying to get this project going. However, the fundraising is also based entirely on donations. For example, the tickets for a bean supper, they're designated as donations. So if somebody came in and said, I'd really like to participate in the bean supper, but I don't have the $7, then I donate $5, sure. No, it's not a set charge.
Right.
And some people say, here's $10, keep the change. It's not a set charge. So everything we do is based upon donation. We have a suggested donation for certain items like supper tickets, but no one's tied to that. So there is no quote-unquote income, and it certainly is not a commercial enterprise in that respect.
Okay, so we can review parking and everybody should kind of make a determination. The number, I guess I still don't understand how we're driving when it's only an estimate, unless you use perhaps numbers of folks that attended the bean supper. Is that Mildred L. Day? Is that where?
Basically, that's what we've done now. Probably what 8 or 10 suppers seems like 100. So we have pretty good numbers on that. We've also done 5 craft fairs, or we will, as of this fall, have done 5 craft fairs. We have pretty good numbers on those. And particularly with the craft fairs, people come and go. So in the course of the day, we might see 200 people, but at any one time, it's 50. So, and particularly with suppers, that's when you tend to have the most people in one place at one time. But we do have ticket stubs, so we know those numbers. And even there are people who come early and leave, and then folks come later. So I think the maximum we've hit so far is about 140, including kitchen staff. But there's never 140 people in there at one time. So going on those numbers, that was how we established the parking situation.
I just want real quick, but I don't see anything that would be a problem in the whole pack. I mean, we need some final stuff. But what other issues or concerns did?
Well, I think it's critical that we deal with this issue right now, because where they're going right now is going to hinge entirely on that. And I would tend to agree with Mr. Conlon from the standpoint that we really have a hole in the ordinance right now where it does not address the issue of it deals with home occupations, commercial, industrial. It does not address institutional. We have no standards for institutional, which we do recognize as a distinct use, somewhere in the netherworld between residential and commercial. So in a sense, we have a hole in the ordinance that I believe this may apply to.
I'll make a motion as far as that goes, that they be considered exempt from 7.6.b, which is requirements for commercial and industrial establishments, and seeing that this is not. I have commercial or industrial, plus on top of that, there is the seasonal aspect that would also play into it. But I would say my motion is that they be exempt from 7.6.b.
Waiting for a second.
Yeah, I was waiting for a second.
Well, moving along, I'll second the motion.
Okay, I'll open it up for discussion. Ted, you had a couple of comments?
Yeah, I would ask that you may consider amending that, say not exempt from, but they are exempt. That they are exempt.
Not to consider.
Well, to say that you want that we move to make them exempt. It's semantics.
We'll move that they are. Okay, not to make them.
Declaring that they are in fact exempt.
Okay.
The other sounds like we're actually you're making an exception to make them exempt. And as you know, that's something you can't do.
Move that they are exempt.
Just for discussion purposes, we do have general provisions for parking lots that do require certain things, and it doesn't matter what kind of parking lot. So it would apply in these situations too, when you go down through the 7. You're going to use 7.6 as your way to get out of it. Then we have to move on to things like 7.7 and 7. Shrubbery, landscaping, as well as the crushed stone.
But if you look at 7.6b, deals with additional requirements for commercial and industrial establishments. So these wouldn't even apply. Neither does not fit into that category at all.
Because one of the things is when that is done along the way, particularly as we have said before, seasonal parking does not require bituminous pavement.
But this is not seasonal. They want this to be year-round. They don't want to be limited. And if they are no longer, if they're not subject to 7.6, it doesn't matter whether it's seasonal or not.
But stated, they said they won't be having some of this in the wintertime. So I mean,
That's correct.
So I mean,
the overflow parking.
So I mean, if you're you can't have it, you can't combine the two, but it turned out if it's not seasonal, seasonal parking would be, that's why the overflow is seasonal.
Well, I'll continue on with what I was trying to get to before, as we look through some of this, and believe me, I'm all in favor of kind of moving this thing kind of through to get to where we are. But I do think nonprofits are, in fact, businesses. So rather than, I can agree personally that you may be exempt to the 7.6, but given that you follow the plan that's been submitted, I mean, I don't think, if we just exempt you from it, there's absolutely no requirement to do anything whatsoever, and you could end up with a mud road. So from a point of discussion, if you're going to say that because this museum isn't taking money as a business, they don't have to do anything, I personally don't think that's correct. I like the plan, I like what's been presented. I think that would meet both the historical aspect as well as the diligence of the review here by the board, but I don't know.
I had a lot of the same thoughts, but it's all or nothing. There's a lot of other things, like curbs and handicap space and all that are part of the requirements. But I think we still should expect it. I don't know how to make it just a part of it without doing it's the whole section that I moved for. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know if we can just take a piece of it.
Well, it's kind of hard. It's kind of, there's a few minutes here to digest the regulation that goes through lots of different areas, but goes back to even William Street design, the curb cuts and everything else, and you got to take all of those things into consideration. That's why I said I'd be much more to accepting this plan, given that the board does believe that the additional provisions of this 7.6 doesn't apply, or doesn't seem to apply. And I have no problem with that. But again, I think we have to have something there to, I guess it's a conditional approval anyway. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong in my interpretation. We could let that go, but they're still going to have to present something to the satisfaction of the board. I'd just say my expectation would be something similar to what's there. You know?
Do we have the authority to waive any of this for time? No.
No, I'm gonna say that up front, so let's not even entertain that. You have the authority to waive submissions. You have the authority to waive standards in the subdivision ordinance. You don't have any authority to waive specific design standards in the zoning ordinance.
So all we have is maybe the authority to determine that this doesn't apply to this.
Doesn't apply to this project.
And exactly as you had made that motion. I would also like to point out one thing, that it does pose a new design challenge to Mr. Conley, in that he's got to paint stripes on gravel.
Yeah.
Because there is no
It's
provision
required.
for, because unfortunately, that requirement to stripe the parking lot is outside of
That's what they make paint for.
the additional requirements for commercial and industrial.
Oh, that's
That's 7.6
C.
C3.
Yeah.
This is why we're changing this.
Well, we don't have the provision well enough for the other, and that's why I said, I think for review purposes and being able to go through this, I like the motion. We have a motion to say that this project is exempt from the 7.6B. I had a second. We have had some discussion. I think we can get into the little nuances later. Hopefully get that resolved, but for right now, have a motion, have a second. Is there any other discussion that's anybody like to have?
Yeah, got one good one.
Okay.
Under all this parking, are you specifically specifying any motorcycle parking?
No, we have not. Not that we wouldn't be willing to do that. We have designated handicap parking, which is paid. But we don't have designated motorcycle parking.
Well, I'm just asking for the simple purpose, because we have had a classification for motorcycle parking. And if you're just saying, as we went round and round on different other things, if you didn't have it, you can't use it. So that's why saying cars, motorcycles, or anything else, yes, it's transportation. But just turn around and having it parking motor vehicles instead of just cars.
There's, on page 72, if you go on further in the sentence, it does give applicants some options to consider that sort of thing if they want to submit. Okay, so have a motion, have a second, ask for a vote, all in favor?
Yeah.
3 in favor, I'm going to oppose. It passes. And we can get into discussion. So that part of it, I think we'll be able to move on, get through this. I want to read it, this. So the number, let's get back to the number again. So we have 54, 51 or 54, and you're saying we need 150?
No.
74 total. 23 year, right?
Calculation.
I thought when you guys were talking, you said you had 54, and maybe you were...
No, there's 23 spaces in this area right now. There's 23 spaces. Okay. And then the additional spaces, which are, we've got 51 in the overflow, right? Well,
Yes.
23 and 50.
we've got 22. And in the one behind Burnham House, we've got 22 spaces, and then we have 29 spaces in the ones that basically flank the entrance road. And those are proposed to be on grass.
Over crushed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, and again, it's going to be important in that area, I think, with all of the mud.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
Yeah, you can't compromise the structure underneath.
So is the 74 the number you guys were looking for?
Yes.
75.
Round it up.
51 and 23.
So, yeah, and plus two handicap spaces.
It's still a parking spot.
That's what I'm saying.
But actually, that takes 2 parking spots. Handicap.
They're
That was
designated.
part of the 23 or in addition to the 23?
Part of it.
Because that would be...
That was,
okay.
Part of it.
We're at about 70, so we're good. There's a waiver in here also for soils. In testing, we kind of brought up the thing about the holding thing. Do we need those decisions today? I mean,
well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the medium intensity soil survey is to make a determination of the suitability of the soils for the project. It's not necessarily for septic purposes or on-site sewer disposal. It's for the capacity of the soil to handle the kind of activity that's supposed to occur out there. Unfortunately, you're going to have to do some engineering because the soils out in this location, at least on the medium intensity soil survey, are pretty uniform. At least the SCS maps show they're pretty much all scanty. You've got some buxton along the along the road, but most of your developments within the Scandic soils, which is a loamy, high water soil that's basically the result of a clay layer. And as we know, we have
We
intense.
require the gravel.
For water flow. Because
So it's gonna be, most of the material here, you're gonna have to be putting in some granular material to be able to take care of anything in this site because of the nature of the soils.
Signs and arrests that had non-applicable in the application, but then we just want to put that through the code enforcement officer, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're going on through this. And there's not going to be any security outside lighting, you said a couple of small lanterns along
Yeah,
the way.
just there.
Along the way, nothing out of the building.
Right.
We don't get nothing there.
No, and our standards, when it comes to parking lot standards, I mean, again, this is another crack in our standards apply in the VI district and the CCS and CCN district. This is in the R4 district, and we do not have specific parking lot lighting standards that are safety oriented in this particular district. It's the same as we had over at Cape Arundel, where the applicant wanted that lighting. It wasn't that he was required to have that lighting, they wanted that lighting. In this case, the applicant does not want the lighting, in keeping with the historical character of the area. The historical display of the area.
It's R3, isn't it?
four, you just switch.
It's our fault.
It is R4.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, R4, we were looking at R3 for usage. Under R4 is allowed.
I guess I don't understand the question.
His question is that museums are conditional use in the R3, not allowed in the R4, but they're conditional in the R4 as well, Marty.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, because we were looking at one classification of R3, and if this is an R4, it's a different zone.
Okay, I thought we were. I don't know why I live there. But hey, you think I've been.
Well, it's across the street, you never know, it's like how you want to turn around and divide your business district.
Any other major issues we dealt with?
The parking, I think, was the major one. The other one is, of course, discussing the no, I think that was the primary issue. If we go through the notes,
I'll, if we can, we'll go to the notes first. But also things like them being a nonprofit where usually they put in like surety for the construction, and that's something that you can work with them, right? The board would think that since the town would waive their application fees, they shouldn't have to put this kind of money up front, right? For the target. Or do they?
and you're talking about the performance?
Yeah.
Remember, this is conditional use performance. Performance surety is not required under conditional
Well, I
use.
thought it was.
It's required under plenary site plan.
See, that's a business.
No, it's not the business, it's a site plan. If this was a site plan application like a
Just trying to
pool,
save some kind of money.
so they're not required to put up a surety.
Okay, good.
If we can put a surety on, if you want to.
No, I wanted to make sure that didn't come back. Okay?
So that's why I didn't bring it up, because it's not really an issue.
So driveway access, that was all good. Parking, we dealt with adequately, or do you want to do more?
What is the width? Driveways.
22 feet.
22.
22 feet.
Is that wide enough in comparison to what we said, like a private way or anything else, for fire or anything else along the way, for our uses
Like
of,
30-foot radiuses there? You have actually 30-foot radiuses.
Yeah, 30.
They have 30-foot radiuses, that's gonna be adequate in order to turn a ladder truck. Should be able to, it'll swing wide, but it'll take a ladder truck in there. It'll be an interesting backup.
well, I mean,
This is kind of unique in that the parking itself is kind of, in the overflow is intended as seasonal for a building that's going to be there year round, but, you know, I think it fits.
In your package also, Donna had met with with Bruce Mullen, the fire chief, and there's a letter from him stating that he's reviewed the plan and has no issues of safety concerns with the project. So he's reviewed this, as well as Roger, Public Works Director. An entrance permit has already been granted to Mr. Labby when he facilitated the relocation of these structures. So we sort of already have that review completed.
Well, let me ask you a question on the actual meeting house. That is, as a place of assembly, have you discussed this at all with the fire marshal, state fire marshal?
We have.
Okay. I'm wondering if that might be an issue.
With respect to
Sprinkling.
Well, potential sprinkling number of occupants that are going to be allowed, depending on the design and layout.
maybe
Come in.
it might be, I don't know.
That'll come back from that side.
That would be part of the building.
yeah, but part of your seating or anything else too. I mean, and what about water suppression, or since there is, in case of a fire?
Well, our position on that is, this site is very proximate to the Kate's Butter site, where there's the pond. I believe that was made aware to the fire chief. He had no, he was aware of this place of assembly as part of his review.
We have actually multiple locations in which we have a surface water supply.
There's a brook just down there.
Yeah.
They can pump out from down there.
But there are multiple water supply locations for establishing a rural water shuttle, which is frankly.
Well, I'm just looking at or thinking, I mean, I'm not against the project, but I'm just running my mouth in this way, turn out where we've had two or three dwelling on site and everything else, where we have 3 full buildings here, where we made them put cisterns in or anything else, and they still had access to a well, and that wasn't good enough. I mean,
I understand what you're saying, and just as a reminder, that was a situation where we had a subdivision, and a subdivision that, as such, it came under the subdivision regulations, which are immediately, basically default to ISO standards, which require cisterns. Basically 10,000 gallons of water plus 5,000 gallons per additional house. And so that's a different set of standards than what we have here. This is conditional use. We have no fire suppression standards as severe as the ISO standards in this particular situation. Now, you can ask the question, it's legitimate to ask the question about fire protection, because that's one of the criteria for approval. But they have already addressed that in the sense that they are within, it's a mile. It's less than a mile.
Oh, yeah.
Quarter mile. It's a quarter mile.
Are you planning on running the utilities over?
or under.
Our application requests either or.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had a plan.
Yes.
It just says that it's going to be taken, that'll get from her. It seemed like it
would vary, there would be a compound out there.
I'd like to go back and address the fire suppression issue. The discussion I had with Bruce Mullen centered primarily on that exact issue. And he went out to the site and he measured the distance between Kate's Butters Fire Pond and the two brooks, and he was very satisfied with distance on those three bodies of water in terms of supply. With respect to the utilities, we would much prefer to have them underground. Donations are accepted because that's a little more expensive in terms of the way to go.
If I could add to that, I agree with Marty emphasizing this, because as far as being within a mile, sure, you can put the fire out eventually, but for me, I think it's the immediate crisis of a fire. If you have been suffering, several people in wheelchairs and families, and the fire breaks out, it doesn't matter that you're within a mile to make the call, wait for them to show up. It's getting the people that are in there out, or suppressing the fire as quickly as possible. So, do you have any, have you considered any type of sprinkler system or anything like that?
No. And again, if that was required, I'm not familiar with those codes, but if that's required by a state fire marshal, we got a permit to build that building, we have to cross that bridge at that point.
Well, it's not required, so it just
Not yet.
seems like a sensible thing to do. I know it's also expensive option as well.
With regards to a lot of the issues about the meeting house, we haven't spent a lot of time on design of that. We have our own picture of what that's going to be inside and how it's going to function. Details like sprinklers would certainly be something we would consider and take very seriously, because you're right. You know, you do tend, particularly with being sufferers in this particular area of the country, you have a lot of older folks, sometimes in wheelchairs, sometimes slow walkers, sometimes some of them are us. So we need something to make that be a safe place. One of the things that we attempt to do with all of our decisions is apply an abundance of common sense. So if something's going to cost a little more, but it makes sense from either a safety standpoint or another standpoint, we will do it.
Well, for me, it's just an option for you to consider.
Not trying to throw a stumbling block, we're just trying to look into that crystal ball, like we always have to here. That's why I'm throwing out these questions.
Yeah?
Ted, the stormwater management, you had asked potentially to look at recalculating their numbers. Was that done by Sebago Tech?
Yeah, that was done by Sebago. That was in the event that they had to have basically 75 parking spaces that were paved. It's a little different animal, because their calculations were based on basically a turf parking, which was not an impervious surface. And if we go with turf parking, it also takes care of that problem with the space and bulk issue.
Well, as far as the parking goes, the only thing I can find on the sides of it might refer to for handicap, 8 by 18 feet. Would that be a side parking spot? But in our ordinance, I think we require 8'6" minimum width. I don't know if I'm reading that correctly. 76C.
John, where are you?
It's on page 72, 76C3F. What is it, diagrams there? Page 72.
76.
Yeah.
7.6.
72, 76C.
Yeah, at the bottom.
their handicap spaces should be in accordance with the requirements of the local building code.
And none of these
No. No, the illustrations that there are for the relative, basically for different horizontal configurations of the parking spaces and the dimensions. Frankly speaking, I have no idea what the local building code is for handicap parking spaces. I know what Title III is.
Yeah, but
That's what
usually-
matters, and that's the ADA standard.
Yeah,
We don't even use public building code in this town. We use,
but 8.6 by 18 is the standard parking spot.
That's no problem.
No, that's just for clarity.
A16. A16.
Yeah, can I ask one more question as far as the location of your holding tank?
Yeah.
I can't find where it is. Is it located on there?
It's located right here.
Right in the front. Okay.
for easy pumping.
All right.
But
Good. You did get to? There it is. Okay.
Well,
where?
Right in front of the
what?
Okay, so the truck only drives on the lawn a little bit.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But close to it.
Yeah.
Now, question that I've seen on your North Chapel Meeting House as the future, okay? I see the parking spots way down and everything else. How do you plan on to get to, like, any big building for loading and unloading of materials? I don't see anything where you have, or am I looking at it wrong, to accessibility to it?
Yes. Yeah, we've considered that. The way that building is going to be designed is that there's this driveway here would serve, the loading area would be at this end of the building, right here.
I just didn't, when you look at everything just black and white here, it doesn't quite show
Yeah.
what you're drawing out there.
Yes. But it would be, it is provided for right in this location.
Thank you.
You did bring up another good point, though, for handicap. Is this all going to be handicap accessible to these buildings? Was that
Have to.
handicap? I was going to say, that follows on with that same stuff, though. So, and that's mandated, so that you
Yes.
really can't get around that.
Right.
Well, they'll have their fancy little go-karts to run up and down and get in and out.
Hey, there's fire suppression right there. Okay. I don't. Any other item outstanding other than the board scheduling a sidewalk to get out there?
I would suggest that that would be the next thing the board should do. Does the board want to consider this application complete?
Have we done anything about
This is the this preliminary submission to you.
This is a full submission.
Do you see anything missing? It looks complete to me.
Well, until we'll,
Well, you want your green vegetation buffer.
They'll work with you and then put it together.
assuming, well, the board, first thing the board's gonna do is grant the waivers that were requested. Because there are, there are a couple things that they did not submit and they were requesting waivers for. So that's the first thing the board should do.
What's the list? What's the list?
Let's review them one at a time and vote on it.
Yeah.
If you look on your page, if you look at your checklist, then it should be in the back of the application. Basically, what they ask for, you know, listed on a waiver, but the submission for the medium intensity soil survey, I would say that that would be granted. And
believe that's just about the other one was the landscape plan. Basically, who's stating that there's no new landscape plan because there's adequate buffering between the residents to the south. So they're not asking for any more landscaping. And those are basically the two neighbor submissions. Oh, also the third one was the identification of all trees that are 8 inches or greater in caliber.
Existing number of.
There are no.
And the flood zone.
Well, there's actually, there actually are some along the tree line and.
Is that before timbering or after timbering?
I think it's kind of a low point after timber.
Let's go through one at a time.
Well, while we're on Forest Street, since we're on the identification or location of trees greater than 8 inches, let's start with that one.
And which one are you on?
Okay, there,
Okay.
the applicant is requesting waiver for the following submission requirements.
I'm not trying to find the page.
Page 18 of their submission. It actually is page 3, it's an insert. Site plan requirements. For the identification and location of specimen trees greater than 8 inches caliber, location of existing rock outcrops and boundary of the 100-year flood zone as defined by the FEMA flood insurance rate map for the town of Arundel. They are proposing in that submission, the actual submission, is to identify existing streams, wetlands, draining swales, and the tree.
Tree lines, yes.
So the submission, my point is we're not getting rid of the requirement, we're just not having them have to submit. The submission.
Mr. Chairman, the floodplain that's along the Brimstone and the Thatcher Brook is off property. So it's
They're high and dry.
It's not a,
not dry, it's dry.
Yeah, we're not dry.
You're dry.
The floodplain's down in this area over here.
That's what I'm saying.
so,
They're not waddling in.
for this item, this is item one of the 3 that we need to move through. Do I have anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant the waiver. Now, this is,
Of the
I'm
submission.
confused with submission waiver.
Submission waiver, you can provide a waiver for submission requirements. So this is a piece of information that you can waive because it's not necessary, or it's extraneous or superfluous,
Doesn't apply to this particular project.
or it's not going to give you any information. That's it.
That's
I'll
for-
order that we grant that waiver.
So the trees?
Yeah, for you.
Have a motion, have a second, any further discussion?
That's for the trees.
For the trees, rock outcrops and the 100-year flood zone. We're not requiring that for the submission outline. Okay, no comments, all in favor of approval, please. Martin?
Yeah.
Okay, that's unanimous. Second item?
Second item would be the landscape plan. Or is that something you want to hold off on, it's on the site plan, find it to the site.
I mean, read the distance, that's up to the board. I think all of these can be done through the process, but it's fine, that way they can move on with their main project.
What's required for that?
Well, depends on which way you want to read it. Green vegetation buffer, or you want
But we
all
have,
the pretty flowers and everything else and make the pavement green?
basically a 25 to 50 foot buffering, and then there, if needed, there's some other landscaping things that could be added if it was deemed necessary by the board. As you can see, it looks like the nearest building is
But this is supposed to be country.
150 feet from the, I'm gonna say southern line up to the top, and many hundreds of feet from the road to the bottom with a big field in there.
Yeah, but
Trying
I'm
to
just saying,
preserve
you got your green grass. You wanna leave it rural and country, leave it alone. We don't need to try to make it, an art
That's what they're requesting. Was that a motion?
I said, leave it alone.
Their request is that they not have to file a landscape plan, that we should be able to make our determinations based on the submission and so forth.
Yeah.
Motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a second. Again, this is a submission waiver of the requirement. Ted, do you have any comment on that?
No, if the board determines that you need to do any buffering per se because of the buffering requirements, fine, but that's not the same as landscape.
Buffering or cosmetic?
Buffering. We do have a residence that's located to the south.
I think that should be after our site plan.
That's buffering, that's not landscape. Yeah. I mean, we're really talking landscape then. And you're satisfied with the way this is?
Very honestly, historically, these kind of structures had no landscaping. They had grass that went right up to the foundation. Now, the Arundel Historic Society, if they wanted to add some in the future, and frankly they did, they had some pretty impressive landscaping in there, but as I advised them, if they put it on the plan and gave it to the planning board, they'd have to put it in. And if they want to add landscaping at some future date, terrific, but to be historically accurate, the landscape we're proposing is historically correct.
Yeah, I think most of them like.
So we're not reference to landscaping.
Yeah, you're dealing with landscape,
Flower gardens and fish gardens.
which is usually a requirement.
Okay. It's a submission requirement.
It's a submission requirement.
So maybe I'm seeing more than anybody else, but it looks like there is a landscape plan. You have a tree line, and the rest is fields. Isn't that a landscaping plan?
Well, I guess you could say that. They did say it doesn't apply.
Yeah,
But I guess they already have a landscape plan, if you want to take it that way. But
the whole big.
the way we look at landscaping plan is landscaping plans have additional landscaping plan.
We don't need it.
Yeah. So that's a second?
Yes,
Is
he
it
seconded
That's
it.
a second. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, so the motion is that the submission requirement of the landscaping plan is not required. All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, that's unanimous. And the last item,
Application fee and peer review.
Actually,
we don't have anything to do with that.
That's already been granted by the selectmen. Only the selectmen can do that, and they granted that already. The medium intensity soil survey.
Well, the medium, yeah. And you had for the board review and Ted's notes, you went over the kinds of soils, what it is, what the impact will be. So you feel that you can make a decision based on those notes, to waive the.
You already got the contours of the soil survey.
Yeah, and again, it's the medium intensity soil survey submission requirement that would need to be waived, that the submission of it could be waived. If we feel we have enough information to make that decision.
I guess what rings a bell for me is that it's considered moderately drained, poorly drained soils, and that somehow can be addressed in this part of the soil quality.
It's going to be important for engineering purposes for foundations, yeah. But,
Clay is clay, no matter what you get at.
well, the actual soil, Peter, that we're looking at is straight clay. The clay is the impervious surface underneath it. Actually, it's pretty good soil on top, it's just that we, this is clay layer.
Yeah, it should be, it's been part of
It's
the
excellent
farm.
farming. It's excellent.
Fertilized.
Contains its moisture.
It grows good green grass and good hay.
A medium intensity soil survey in this situation, in most situations where you ask for it, is usually one in which you're looking for wetlands identification, you're also looking for soils of special significance. If we had an Adams soil that had drained very quickly, that would be a concern. Septic system placement and location. Wetland soils, again, for septic and well locations. In this particular situation, you've got a monochromatic soil type through there, and it's really not going to give you any more information than you already know. And their limitations are already recognized by the very fact that they can't put a septic system on the site.
So since there is no septic, then the drainage really isn't as much an issue. Plus, there will be storm drainage study, that's still going to require the water flow.
Well,
Yeah, we
already
submitted that.
That's already been submitted.
It was,
Okay. Do we have a motion on that yet?
nope.
I'll make a motion that we put that in.
I'll second the motion.
I understand waivers, but they don't have to submit the medium intensity, so. Okay, have a motion, have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Site visit. Of course, after proving all of this, I'm hoping we have a good rapport with the applicants.
For the next meeting.
We got some saying
We need, we need, and we'll have to schedule, we don't have public hearings or anything.
No.
Yes, you do. You have to have public hearing and everything.
Yes, we do have to have a public hearing on this.
So,
They can rally their forces.
I'm sure you guys are aware, but we've had other applicants really confused. But all of these votes and all of these things say that from the documents that we've got and what you've submitted, we can make certain decisions along these. That doesn't negate any of the possibility of the board coming back at a later date after our site visit, after the open meeting, after our further review of the thing and say, hey, but we really feel in the interest of safety, this condition is required. So where we're at, that's what we really are. So we need the sidewalk if you all determine, and we need the public hearing, which since it's mandatory.
When do we need the application?
You have to schedule the public hearing. But before that, you have to make a determination of whether or not the application is complete.
And we have to have the sidewalk before the public hearing.
Yes. Oh, you can have the sidewalk, yes.
Same thing. Yeah.
That's your standard. I don't believe it's required that you have the sidewalk first. They're independent.
Yeah.
You have to have the public hearing. The sidewalk is discretionary. The practice of the board is to go out and look at every site.
But one thing I do ask, when we do have a site walk, can we try to at least have it pinned, show locations of where things are going to be? It's like the road and whatever else, not where the buildings might be, instead of trying to look at our crystal ball and figure out where it's going to be.
We'll figure something out.
Flag representing the center line of the roadway, a couple of the corners of the buildings where the holding tank is going to be, the end of that driveway circulation maybe. Any other items you guys want to see during the sidewalk?
Property line.
Yeah.
You wanna go check
it
the
out in
pins, too?
relation to the house, the residence to the south, kind of where the property line is to that area, you know.
Tree line's pretty defined.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to make sure we get there with better.
I'd like to make a motion to a sidewalk 23rd.
Okay.
This meeting.
6 o'clock?
Yeah.
2 weeks from tonight?
Yeah.
Do we have a
And
meeting
you're
that
able,
night?
you'll be able to stake that out?
Yes.
Do we have a meeting that night?
Yes, you do.
All right.
So we have a sidewalk.
The 23rd. So I have a motion, have a second from Tom, all in favor? Fine.
I'll make a motion, we accept this as complete.
Determine the
The
application.
application is complete.
Have a motion, determine the application complete.
I'll second that.
Have a second by Roger. Any further discussion from anybody? Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Scheduling of the public hearing, last open item.
We need 14 days to make it 2 weeks from tonight then.
Hold on, let me just check.
I'm gonna say, see what,
No, it doesn't have to be 14, but.
That's what we had to do last time, to
No, you have to do
transfer.
14 for a zone change.
No, for, we had to do
Zone change,
14
you have to do
before, well, the tool.
No, we did 7. 10 days, I'm sorry. That's site plan, and that's a 10-day. Conditional use, if I recall, is a 7-day, but let me verify that. So we haven't done conditional uses. Public hearing, 10 days.
Okay, we're good.
well, are you gonna be
So
able
we can
to,
have it 2 weeks from tonight.
will you be able to postpone?
No.
Yeah, because that's 14 days. We need 10.
Remember, I have to post it with a paper. I need 3 days in advance notice for the paper.
Well, that's
Why don't we
good.
say tentatively, if Donna can't post it by Wednesday, I have to have it, I have to have it posted by Monday. It's gotta be in the paper Monday.
Put it in tomorrow.
It's not gonna, you know, then the paper may take it out and
Well, you
maybe
can turn
runs
on
it.
the
Why don't
Post it,
we,
put
why
it
don't we
in.
tentatively post it, why don't we tentatively do that? If Donna, look, it's just simple, if Donna can't if she can't put it in the paper on Monday, you don't have a public hearing, because you're not meeting the notification.
Okay.
What?
Okay?
And if it isn't posted, our next one would be the 13th of June? Is that right, second Thursday, as an alternate? If not, do you guys want to entertain doing that? That way you don't have to make another, I mean, that would be the only other one unless you wanted to come in. Is there anything blinking the public hearing to their construction? This is getting out there
Yeah.
quite a bit now.
Can't get a permit until everything's,
Well, I don't think, do you have equipment ready to go?
I'll bet you
I
they can
don't
get it
think
tomorrow.
2 weeks is going to make a difference one way or the other,
Okay.
so don't stress over the date.
Might, the grass might get longer.
We have mowers.
We should play it safe and just go.
You got your
Yeah.
vegetation buffer from now.
Yeah. It should be
No,
one day.
let me see if I can put it, okay?
All right.
June,
If I can't get it in the paper Monday, then we'll have to wait until the following.
June.
Okay? So I'll go back and actually after the meeting, I'll go make the notification.
So it's either going to be, the motion is to have the public hearing on either May 30th or June 13th, depending on the ability to get it
Not the
posted.
30th.
May 23rd.
23rd.
May 23rd or June 13th, if we're not able to meet the posting. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, would it make sense if this, could the sidewalk be moved with the
Yeah.
button so it all gets done at one,
Good.
either or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Because we seem to review everything, the labels, the butters, do we have to do this?
No, I do it.
is the board in agreement with that?
Gentlemen, what's the rest stuff on?
Ted,
Just have
from-
it. I'm happy to have it.
From the board then, we'd like to move the site visit to coincide with whichever day we have the public hearing, then we'll walk before the public hearing, have the public hearing, have the discussion. Makes a lot of sense.
So all the pressure's on you being able to get down and accomplish this. That's what you're saying.
Exactly, I love it.
Essentially, okay.
I have one question for the applicant. Are you gonna put a well out there, hopefully non-salty?
Yes, hopefully.
There's a well on site, right? I think I read that.
No, we're proposing one. And we're hoping it's not salt.
Oh, it just said on site. Well, I got you. Okay. Good question. Okay, does the applicant have any, or representatives have any other questions?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Before we get into our next item, the downtown business to land use thing. Mrs. Graham. Ms. Graham, can you give me an idea of what you're hearing? I'll see if the board wants to change some of this, so you may not have to wait until the very end. Or are you here?
Thank you.
Or are you down here for this item, the land use ordinance?
I am here because, well, it's been 16 years since I sat before the board.
That long?
Yes, that's what I was saying to you. And Tom and Marty were on the board. So it's been 16 years and it's been almost $1 million of investment in this business in the town of Arundel. And I hope that the structures that are there and the way that we maintain them have brought pride to the people that are approved this venture. And I hope that the fact that residents and visitors that come to Arundel and live in Arundel are proud of the way in which we do business. I certainly am. I'm interested in finding out about your changes to the zoning. I had a brief informative meeting with Chad where he explained the town's motivations in changing the zoning. And also he supplied me with, again, with the restrictions in the commercial zone as it exists now. When he showed me the map, and after I left and thought about it, the Arundel Playhouse is on 10 acres, and I would say less than 3 of them are developed with the buildings. So the property, according to the temporary plans that Tad showed me, is now going to be in 2 different commercial zones. When I left and I thought about it, what distressed me was that the leach field for the theater is in a different commercial zone than the building itself. And I don't think that that's a good thing. So that prompted me to want to know more about this. And to want to have some idea of what the proposed changes are for the second commercial zone that you're creating.
Okay. And that's part of what we're reviewing, kind of.
Yeah. And I don't know how I get those, how I get a copy of that.
You'll be disappointed with how far along we've gotten.
Oh, you haven't got that far?
No.
Oh.
That's why I didn't give it to you.
This has taken us so long. I mean, we've tried to bring in all of the answers, all of the questions.
So some areas have taken us months and months and months when we thought it was going to be 1, 2, 3 visits and move along. Ted gave a good analogy. I think that set with me. Our current ordinance, I think you saw in discussion, we have to go back and forth to 2, 3, 4 different areas for almost everything. In Ted's view, it's been a patchwork of changes over the years, and what we're trying to do is rewrite a whole new regulation so that someone like yourself or a new business owner that comes in can grab this one thing and know all the things that pertain to them and their home and their zone is right here. So it's taking us 2, 3, maybe 4 times longer than any of us imagine. So we're not there yet. So we don't even have what's going to be. We have a pretty good idea of what we're going to suggest to the public was going to be along the DB1. DB2, we've had some discussion, but all of the rest is still open, setback, size, that kind of stuff. So Ted will have on the internet all of the changes that the board has reviewed and approved. Are you updating that where we are? All of the minutes are on the internet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can go in, you can see the board discussion on every single item, just go under Town of Arundel, and I'm not sure if it's under the board minutes, and you'll get them all. Okay?
So Ms. Goon, as I understand you, as a business owner who is interested in learning about this before it is finalized, that you are can I go back a step and say, first of all, seeing Tom and Marty here and having seen them here 16 years ago, thank you all very much for being willing to do this. Because I'm sure that it isn't an easy job. I remember the DEP, the many, many visits. I remember the state fire marshal going to Augusta when none of my builders and guys wanted me to go because I didn't know what I was talking about. So I told them, well, I'll go. I'll talk to the fire marshal in Augusta, and then if you don't like the results that I get, then you can say, well, you know, this crazy old lady, we just we let her go, but now we're going to do the real thing. But anyway, so thank you so much for giving your time and your expertise. I really appreciate it. I just want to be informed before final decisions are made in case I have suggestions, and I think you've told me how to do that.
Attendance at these meetings, you can see, I think everybody on the board's a little disappointed. We try to bring people in, but it's so hard. There's other business. People sit here for hours. I mean, you've been here and trying to fit you in early so you know we'll do the same with you guys in a second. So you want the participation, but people come and it's hard to get them involved and get active. But you got to get through the regular business. And that's really that forward-looking planning strategy, if you will. Where do we want the town to go? And as you know, we have contracts out that are looking at the same thing. We're going to have to take that information into account. The business owners, the ECB, which is our economic development, EDC, the Economic Development Committee input, as well as the residents. So we have residents, business owners, business and a contractor, even after we kind of weigh in on our own, if you will.
Well, I just didn't want to wait until it was too late in case there was something that would be detrimental to my business. And I think you assured me of that. And I see that this is pretty much the way it was 16 years ago. Except Mr. Bassett is not here with his Cowboys on. And he is missed.
Just to mention, we have actually looked at your property several times in terms of, that zoning split that you mentioned, and the board was trying to actually figure sort of in a vacuum what would be most advantageous to you.
Thank you.
So your input really is valuable, and we'll try to keep you informed as we go along. But we want to do, obviously, what's best for the residents, especially property owners that live there, especially if the zone potentially splits the property. So there's no reason we can't put you in one zone or another, or split it, whatever seems to be most advantageous. So we just need to be informed.
Part of it is developed, and that part has the leach field. And I just feel that that should all be, certainly be in one package. Thank you, I
Yeah,
appreciate
one of the
it.
reasons that we thought it might be more advantageous with the proposed lines as they are now is because you would have more options for development that way, for future development. But that may not be so. Again, we need you to talk to us when
Thank
the
you.
time comes.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I appreciate your listening and your thoughts, and I will stay in touch with Tad and watch your website. I can't come to your meetings, though.
Why not? The chairs are comfortable. They're a lot better than they were 16 years ago.
Although there should be one there.
And I hope the,
We did have one.
I hope the board don't mind me doing this, but it seems like a good time. I mean, I really shouldn't deviate without you guys' permission. So, thank you,
Thank you for.
folks. And you're here for.
I have, would you like to read this in front of the board? Oh, you want me to read it in front of the board?
Yeah.
Is that why you gave it to me?
He looks younger.
I could. So, I have property on Route 1, right on the town line, and I've been in touch with Tad as well, and we've got a couple of conversations. I've been to one of the meetings in the past, and it's certainly not very long, and a little bit discouraging because I'm looking for some progress. I've been
Discouraging to us.
I know, and to kind of keep up with it, and where you guys are going and where we've been, because I don't know how many times my property's been rezoned. Even if it's just changing some initials from highway commercial to B1, I think I am now.
Yeah, you're B1.
I own what's could be known as the gateway to Arundel, right there on the line.
The first line.
Yeah. The real line, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm on the right-hand side coming from Bedford. Wide open, lived there for many years, raised 4 children, and don't live there now, but that's where my property is. Working on getting it straightened out, cleaned up, and want to do something there. We have 3.7 acres. The current zoning requires, if I want to split, 200 feet per lot. 2 acres or 200 feet, I think they go together. I don't need that. So what I need to know is what can I do to change that? And maybe you guys, I know you guys are more of a kind of enforcing whatever's there. You don't do a lot of changes, so should I be going to selective meetings, or I guess I'm here for your advice.
I'm not sure. I'm going to ask Ted for a little explanation. I apologize. Maybe the board followed some of that a little better. Apparently, we have a property that you would like to split into 2. Like you wouldn't have adequate frontage. There's other stipulations for access to the back, and multiple buildings on one lot. Doesn't need any. Has it been in to see you?
Yeah, we've talked.
And there's been a review. And
Yeah, the reason why I asked Mr. Bruce to talk to you and send a letter, and he's been kind enough to come in tonight, is that if you recall, we had talked about the gateway, putting a gateway district at both ends of Route 1. The way basically to announce that you're coming into Arundel, whether it be from Kennebunk side or the Biddeford side. But the really desperate one is the Biddeford side, because nobody knows where the property line is. As well as the first property coming into Arundel, and most people assume he's in Biddeford. In fact, frankly speaking, I think most people assume that it is until you get over the bridge that you're in Arundel, because that's where the sign is.
In fact, somebody stole the other one that my son did up there, it was right there.
Yeah, the Eagle Project.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's right, Domino's won't deliver anymore, because we say Arundel.
Yeah.
That's a whole other issue. You can deal with that.
That's the identification of a
Before
run.
you run
Well,
the line.
there it is, I mean, you're working down there and you wanna order it, and then you tell them, and they say, no, we can't deliver.
Yeah, that was back in 1995.
So I had explained to us about what we had talked about, which was we discussed the issue of creating a gateway. Something was distinctive that announced that we were coming into Arundel. And when we had discussed this, we had talked about creating another district for that. And I believe it was John who said essentially, why create another district when we already have districts that do exactly what you're talking about? And that was, I believe, the DB1 district. And we had discussed putting the DB1 district for a short ways into Arundel at both ends. It is at the Kennebunk side, but it isn't at the over at the Biddeford side. And as you recall, there's smaller lots. They provide smaller lots, 100-foot frontages, 1-acre lots. So basically that, we were talking about it, and he was looking at his property and saying, well, that gives me an opportunity to put in 2 lots there, and maybe I can get, I will have a more marketable product being the gateway, being one of the gateway lots. And so I encouraged him to come and support the idea of the gateway designation. Because quite frankly, you had already discussed it, but we kind of dropped that. We didn't continue that.
Well, we
concept.
kind of stopped it at Lock
Yeah, we had, but when we had discussed the gateway zone, we had discussed making it a DB1 instead of, I mean, the concern was, how many bloody zones are we gonna have? You know, and if we use the standards aren't gonna be much different than they are in the DB1 right now.
So right now on your map, it's still showing as
BI, which is a
Town line.
When we were discussing, I mean, let's be honest,
okay.
I believe, when we were discussing this, weren't we thinking more of the gateway and the looks still on this side of the bridge?
No.
I mean, we had the one,
No,
we had the train, the old train station, just on the other side.
That's better for
That's next to this property.
No, it's not.
Not the train station, I'm sorry, the range station. Basically the gas station. That used to be the gas station.
It's not, you're on the wrong side of the street.
Yeah,
The antique place is next to it.
Yes.
So the train station is on the other side, the gas station's on the other side.
Nothing New Antiques is adjacent to my property.
Right.
They sit out front.
I was in the wrong location.
My buildings are 225, I got a mobile home and a house, and they're about 225 feet from the front line. So they sit way back. So I have a wide open, flat, mostly area that would be, ideal, I think, for farmers market and those types of businesses, something that would represent, community, and I know that we don't want a hamburger alley there.
Why not?
Why not?
Because we got rapid raise.
Who's gonna go that far?
Personally, I've been there, I've been there about 28 years.
Who was there?
What I'm gonna do is ask the town planner, for our next planning session, let's revisit the gateway and DB1 when we have the map and we can see exactly where it is, because we're gonna have to set other boundaries. And I want it to be totally specific to you when we say board is dirt. We'll get it on the next agenda, then the board's in agreement with that. We'll look at the actual map, see where it might fit.
I think it would be helpful if you had some kind of idea of what you might do with that, some potential uses.
Look in your crystal ball.
I might sell it.
Yeah, that's a commercial property.
Right now, it's residentially used, but it's zoned as it is. But absolutely. Which would then give me the option to sell possibly half of it and hold on to the other half of it, and that's something kind of builds up and maybe sell the other half of it, get myself out of debt and on my way.
You know that won't work.
Huh?
That won't work.
Yeah, well, I've been working on it.
Sam will take care of that.
Yeah.
Anything else you think we can do at the next meeting without a map, further looking at the DD1?
If you recall, the reason we tabled that, we were gonna wait for that study to come back in, the marketing, the branding study, to see what they were gonna recommend. But, so that's gonna tie into it, and then if you have some ideas, you know, not that they're carved in stone, but some potential ideas for us to consider that might happen there, I think that would be helpful.
And I'm open for ideas. I'm open for maybe some partnership with the town or anybody else who wants to do some things. I wish I would have brought my tax lot map, and I know that they're not,
We don't have one.
they're not exact, let me say, because I think it says 335 feet frontage, and when I measured that off, I ended up in Orlando Auto's parking lot somewhere, so I'm not really sure.
Maybe they're on your.
There you go, they're probably overtaxing
Wouldn't
you.
that be nice? You got 3 lots.
They're overtaxing me, I already know that.
Yes.
So what else is new?
Can we put that on the agenda?
But I do want to point out that
We don't have anything to do with that.
looking at the map, and looking at the other side of the map, Wayne Pelletier's property is directly across from mine. He's passed recently. I mean, it's his property for a little while. His daughter's living there now, actually, which is a nice thing. But his property should run adjacent to the Proctor Road and then come all the way down to the town line. And looking at the copy I just got from Wendy about a week ago, there's all these other lots on the other side of that. So I don't know if that's something you guys can explain to me, how there are other lots that really shouldn't be there. Because I believe they should have about 3 acres over there as well. And they may be very interested in maybe seeing some changes too. I know that the Ponscoffs, I believe that's the last one, the English who own the antique place, would like to see some changes too. So I think.
And they've been in.
And again, I'm just looking for advice on what do I need to do. I don't have 3, 4, 5 years, honestly. None of us you remember, certainly not me.
I mean, it's not going to be tomorrow.
No, and I understand that, but
Yeah, I don't have 3 years either, but I may not be here when we're done. There's a little to go.
What do you mean by that?
If this takes 2 or 3 more years.
It's not gonna take too much.
The question that I have in part of your thing is on, and I don't know that this is the case, but say you own the property and you own 2 or 3 lots next to it for tax assessor purposes, they might count that as just one property but have left it on the map. Is that possible?
I can't speak. to that.
Continuous lots?
I don't know.
Yeah, when people, we had that come up with somebody else.
Yeah, they put it
Where-
as continuous
Where
lots.
we thought there was other lots and it wasn't all part of the same, it was all under the same ownership of one property.
across the street from me though, the designation of the areas is too much for what area is there. Like if you added them all up, it might be 10 acres, or not 10 acres over there. And on the other side of the Pelletier is Trogner, and I believe he's in Bedford.
These are better.
And that property goes from Proctor Road right to the gully.
Didn't we have somebody come in down?
That's under the other side of the Proctor Road, around the corner.
Yeah,
That
I
was
have to
last
look at
week.
the map on that. But I think the reason why I think we need to do this is because we dropped this, we didn't discuss it, we were talking about, and we were waiting until Chesapeake Group is finished with their project. But from what I'm hearing from them so far, this would be in keeping with what they're looking at.
And I don't mind, I don't even mind putting a hash mark on it, you know, that if you can kind of describe it and say, depending on survey results, ECB input, et cetera, you know, let's get a feel on how we feel, lay it out, everything's open, and we're not hiding anything.
And
Right.
You can review, get your.
in the meantime, I would say if that many people in the area are interested in doing something there, we need to all get together for a meeting.
Well, I actually thought about stopping by and visiting with you.
Yeah, do that. Have them come to town vote.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to put it on the agenda and you want to bring some neighbors over to meet, like Linda wants to come, so,
Well, we can look at it, maybe define what some of those things are.
The other thing
because
is,
we already have the regulation, if we use the DB1, we already have everything done.
But we could make copies of the DB1, let them go through it.
Yeah,
see what
exactly,
they're doing,
exactly.
Give you some idea of what we're thinking could work, what the sign, what
Which I
everything
think
is.
sounds like I can go online and find that if it's already done anyway.
No, we'll send it to you.
Oh,
It's not finished yet.
My clip on the DB1, we're talking about there's less frontage you
Right.
need
Right.
and more density.
and that's what I was hoping.
It also has
for.
architect-
You're gonna break it down into
There are
smaller
some
lots.
architectural
Yeah.
design
Less frontage.
requirements of those more strict than
Side
other
backs
parts.
are different.
Yeah.
It's much denser, but it also requires, in exchange for the density, you have to do some decent architecture. It has some architectural design standards.
For the landscaping or?
Landscaping in the building
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
The building itself. And the idea is to create character.
Right, right.
And that's what we had talked, you and I had
Yeah,
talked about,
yeah,
the
yeah.
need to create character in that area, say, hey, welcome to Arundel, this is a special place, you might want to put your business here.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about some of how Kennybunk is set up in some of their, even in the motor vehicle area, those buildings are kind of nicely done.
Yeah.
And I won't do that myself because I don't have the money, but certainly that would make it more sellable, I guess. And would really attract somebody who has the money and the ability to kind of really dress that area up and go not attractive at this point in time.
And quite frankly, I haven't approached the selectmen on it, but if we were to do this, I would also try to apply for some MUCF gateway money, which would, maybe we can get some money, some match grant money to make some landscaping improvements in that area and put a sign back in. Maybe we'll move the sign over. Or maybe we'll find another Eagle Scout. But better yet, the idea would be to
Well, we have
really
a
make
sign,
it
huh?
nice.
I mean,
signs across,
would you guys not let them put it in your
No.
yard or something?
no, it wasn't the reason.
The sign was there that his son, I believe, made.
It was on the town line. That was at the town line. But when they
Which
put
is
the
where my
gateway,
property is, and somebody actually physically stole the sign.
But somebody then put in this one in the wrong.
It's
spot.
it's further down.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where it is.
I don't know, is that something you bring to the selectmen?
Couple
Dan
hundred
was
yards
here,
from
we
the
go back down the road to town.
In
regards to what?
Moving
it's
the
up next
sign
to
to
the
the
brick
town.
building
Yeah.
because
But I mean, I'd throw this right in the lap of the EDC and say, go get them. I've already taken them out there and said, this is our actual entry. Look at it. This is something right up your alley, guys.
do you have a copy of your, either of your deed, turn it with land survey? You don't know where everything is hid?
I haven't personally had my property surveyed, and.
I'm just why I'm asking you
Well, I
that.
was advised by Wendy to just go on and register the deeds, which I haven't done, but they got a website, I guess you can go on there, and they'll give you all that. I used to have a copy way back, you know, it says 170.5 feet from this mark.
That's why I was kind of saying is that, you know how deep and pinpoint it is. Instead of turning and going by where, instead of being in Arundel, you know, I mean, you get an idea of Berry Marks for yourself.
Well, as I understand, Constance had their lot surveyed,
Yeah.
and we had a little issue there. Once upon a time, we had a little disagreement due to the tax lot map,
Yeah.
because it said I had 335 feet, so somebody was on my land. I'm still not sure about that right now. But she reported that she had it surveyed. And for her to have it surveyed, they basically had to establish my property line. I couldn't find any pins, so I did not see any flagging or stakes or anything like that.
Well, the Berry.
It's quite possible, if that's a true statement, that information should be readily available. I actually called down who did the survey and kind of presented that to them because I was willing to certainly pay for some donation, but they wanted $5,000 to
To survey yours.
basically give me information that they already had, is the way I look at it. So I really wasn't, I didn't have $5,000 to give me.
We are going to kind of move on, but
Okay.
thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank you.
This is what we want, sorry that we can't be a little bit more engaging, but we'll get to it next week.
Okay, and you
Okay, and if you bring in 2 more.
2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks, great,
If
okay.
you think, right before then, we can look at it in a little bit more detail.
Okay, great, sounds good.
And then you'll be on the agenda.
We'll do mine. All right.
Thank you.
Take care, boss.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to proposed revisions to land use ordinance, downtown business district 2. Okay, Dad, it's all yours.
Okay, you've got a copy of where we stand after the last meeting. You had asked me to put together definitions, which I did, but which I couldn't print out from my computer, which I apologize for. I have a crashed computer right now.
Why?
Because I have a corrupt file.
Shouldn't be looking at those things.
Yeah, I think my concern, and you'll know, we had we went back and forth. It was almost like board members were fighting with each other, and it gets crazy sometimes. But if we're going to use a term, I mean, right now, the only context as a board we have are the definitions that currently exist. So if we're going to change those, or if something applies to those and it's different, well then we need to call it out specifically in that ordinance. If it isn't, if it's exactly the same thing, well, we don't have to worry about it. But those terms and the way we were using them was going to be quite different. It was going to be a compilation of the two, so really a new definition for what it is, which brings us to the confusing part for me, is are we going to need a whole, I mean, this gets bigger and bigger every time I look at it. We're going to need a whole thing of definitions for every single area as well? For every zone? I mean, because, I mean, this exception, that exception, I mean, you couldn't put them in the definitions, or we could put it in the regular definitions and put applies to each zone. Or something. Do you see what I'm saying? We're either going to have the definition for each of the zones, or we're going to have to know when we're reading on what that definition applies to if we got 6 different zones that they're applying to. Because I mean, it was, I don't want to say it was heated, but it was a good discussion, good discourse, which said, hey, we need to resolve that. That's another issue we need to resolve with this rewrite.
Yeah, my idea is not to put definitions in each one of these sections. I think the definitions need to be all in section 3. Keep the definitions in section 3. And if you have a question about what does it mean, what's the difference between a automobile vehicle sales and an automobile vehicle repair facility? Yeah, you are going to have to turn to definitions to look it up.
Yeah, and this was, we had manufacturing, we had low impact manufacturing, and we're going to have CB1 manufacturing because it was a little different than those two.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so that will just go in and stay with manufacturing, but specific.
It would be in the section 3
You're not gonna be
too.
able to see it for real.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna put it in here.
No, I'm fine with that, just so that if somebody asks, what is the definition, because you'll have some wrong. What we say in this one may not be exactly the same in the next zone. That's all.
Well, yeah, it will be.
Because if you use it, because you came up with a new definition of manufacturing, we have, you're not going to change the definitions that are in there, because that goes to all of the other areas except for DB1. So the manufacturing and low impact manufacturing apply everywhere else. This new definition only applies to DB1. You have to keep the context in which we understand what they were written.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We can't lose that.
But whatever definition you have, it should be for all zones. You can't.
Yeah. The definition's gonna be the same no matter where it is.
I disagree.
But whether you put that, whether that's, if you can have, let's put it, instead of using low impact, why don't we just say, we have manufacturing 1, 2, and 3. No different than we have retail 1, 2, and 3.
I don't have a problem doing it that way, but then we get back to notes again, which we kind of wanted to avoid within which manufacturing is in every zone. Like manufacturing 1, 2, or 3.
Well, that's where it's in the permitted uses section. That's why it would be listed there. Let's say in the DB2 district, we wanted all kinds of manufacturing except for the heavy smelting kind of manufacturing. So we
That
got
might take 1.
Okay, and then you'd say manufacturing 1 and 2,
Okay.
but not 3. In B1, it would be manufacturing 1, 2, and 3. Okay, that's how you do it.
So we're gonna have to review all of any definition that changes back to the original context, I mean, what was printed before, so that we're sure we don't lose these things.
Yes. Well,
Yeah, no, I see the need for it. All right, I'm with it.
the definitions aren't, we're really not changing anything that much. We are expanding, we're specifying things more to make it very clear what's allowed. So we stopped at this nonsense of, well, we can shoehorn this into there, but we also could shoehorn this in there. The objective is to be very clear on what we want in these zones. So A, we know what we're going to get, and B, the property owners know what they can do. The objective is to eliminate as much uncertainty as possible, to make it more certain, more predictable, more reliable. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, and I think it was fine before in the zones that they were at. I mean, you could pretty well say the high-impact manufacturing was up in the VI, period. Wasn't anywhere else, wasn't allowed anywhere. Low-impact manufacturing, there was a couple, but that was pretty clear. Now we have this thing that's for the VI that's kind of in between those two, and I was wondering how we were going to use it, and it's specific
To the VI.
So we have...
Because we don't have any other place where we're going to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we have
that's okay.
one that's for the VI, we have some that are for community commercial south, community commercial north, and the VI. I don't know. So that's why I said we need to review each of those.
Low, medium, and high intensity manufacturing.
Well, we'll have to relook at it.
One thing I may throw out here is like Adrian said tonight, okay? Okay, if you have 1 acre lots, that's fine, okay? But when you have one lot, where you're also, and you're trying to divide 2 zones in the same business, I don't think that should be done.
Agreed, and I think her situation was unique, because remember, what we were trying to do is create, wherever possible, put the zone lines on boundary lines so we wouldn't cut lots out. Remember, that's one of the big things we did in this process, in the DB1, DB2, was to try to reduce the amount of cutting up lots.
I like, if I stated it before, you're cutting my lot.
Yes, in your lot we are. And
And
I'm not saying that
I
you
can't
don't.
split it, and I can't split it, so it's around, I have two different zones, 2 different uses,
Yeah.
and we're still cutting them off.
Well, they have 2 different uses. One is one intensity, one is even more intense than what's permitted. In this district, you're going to be able to do more in your back zone than you can do right now. You're not losing anything, you're gaining something.
By having more of the DB2.
Yeah, you have more DB2 in your zone. But, and you know, I'm not saying it's perfect, because there's nothing perfect about this thing. But what we're trying, remember what we're trying to do, right now, many lots are split. And that's what we've been dealing with left and right all the time, is split lots all over the place. And we're trying, where we could, to follow property lines, where we could.
And in his example, for his, we couldn't follow his line.
No.
That makes sense to you?
Well, we didn't want to
Well,
follow
let's-
his line
let's-
because he would have put them all in the DB1, which is not what he wanted to be in.
Well, let's put it this way. Over the years, I've been in I don't know how many different zones. Okay?
And it hasn't impacted you one bit, has it?
I'm just saying is, now we're trying to uses and non-uses and everything else along the way. It was simple, it was HC1, and then everybody wanted to get fancy and renaming it, and then come back and rename it again, and then rename it again. Now we're gonna split it. I mean, it's like playing a crapshoot.
Do you want to keep it the way it is right now? Not change anything?
I mean, it's, to me right now, it's just keep, you're changing.
Your area's been under what we got?
No, I was HC1. No, it
Oh,
ain't.
right now you're in
She's got a
GI.
different name?
No,
What are you in now?
HC.
I just said.
No,
Yes.
I was,
What are you in right now?
I think it's called HC. That was the Mariano area, where then we expanded. Huh?
That's what I said, you said no.
No, you were actually in the CCS district. HC is very limited. It's basically the Where's Motors quote, the Mariano's piece, Where's Motors, and Arundel Ford.
No.
Yeah, that's what the district is right now. It's
I,
shrunk. It's
Mariano's Butney.
Yeah, I know, it followed the property line.
Yeah, that was created just for them, and that
Yeah.
was, and, but again, the reason why we shouldn't do this.
But we're looking at the big picture though, to try to
And
make
it's-
the town grow.
And you, I mean, I think that's fair, so. We don't have, the definitions for this one.
No, and I apologize for that.
Did we want to relook at the changes that you made, or is there something specific you'd like us to look at?
No, I wanted to go over the definitions, and I apologize that I should have put them out
It's
before.
okay. So,
Before today, I was gonna put them out today.
so we should really defer this into the next meeting when we can really address the thing. The other thing that you had asked for the board to look at was the PMUD and how it might apply conceptually within the PB1. Have you guys taken a stab at doing that? Nobody?
Say that again.
In our planned mixed-use development, which the board decided it didn't want to do, it was considered, I think, primarily to be more of a contract zoning. The board wasn't comfortable with it, so let's not do it. However, some of the concepts within the PMUD look like they might be able to apply from either a building design, construction, utilization.
I don't remember really seeing that.
This goes way back to the beginning, Marty, when he first started doing.
Section 8.
No, we had that in that folder, that's what I'm looking at.
It's in your book.
It's in
Okay,
your
that's
book.
why,
It's in there too, but this was one of the very first folders that he gave us. Because they had permitted uses where they did go into boarding and rooming house, extended care, convalescence, nursing home, dormitories, duplex, multifamily, townhouse, extended care, convalescent nursing home, and we had that kind of discussion before. So I think for some of the uses into the DD2, I think are fine. I mean, I think this PMUD was almost, if you go back down through it, a lot of these match to where we already are. I mean, all of the things that we put out, there was a few other things that were added in there. I don't think things like driving ranges, golf course, sexually oriented businesses, the specific use standards. The board, again, said the board decided that we weren't going to deal with it. We really felt that the selectmen would have to decide if we were going to do this ordinance, right? Especially specific businesses and that kind of stuff. Why write it if we're not going to be under something?
Yeah, that was a totally different issue. The idea of adult businesses was basically to specify a location where you could put it. Because Otherwise, it's just retail or service. Right?
I agree.
That's what it is. And the issue was, what I had asked, is that something that you wanted to control in the town? And it's the same, because, you know, quite frankly, I caught a lot of grief for the shop that's in,
Linda's. But guess what? It doesn't have that much traffic, it turned out, it's just a store. I mean, and everybody makes a big deal out of nothing.
yes, and they made a big deal about us letting it go in, because there was absolutely nothing we could do about it, it's retail. Right? It's a retail store. And it would be the same thing with tattoo parlors, that's a service store. I don't want to agree for the tattoo parlor. That's a service industry, that's a personal service. What do you want? I can't prevent that. Now, if you want to prevent that, then you gotta call it out.
Yeah, it's like to say you can't put an ice cream place in.
Well, I mean,
I'm just using it as a type of business.
yeah, but the issue about the PMUD was basically, we were gonna look at that, see if we want to do something in the DB2 district that would allow more of a mix of residential, because I think the concern was residential and business. We didn't want too much residential, but should we allow residential in the DB2 district if it's integrated with business? And that's what we were looking at, the PMUD saying, you get a percentage, you got to provide a minimum percentage of residential.
Yeah.
If you're going to put in residential, you could have business, but there's got to be a percentage.
I think you graduated into comparing the PMUD to the DB2, because we were looking at the PMUD in the circular effect where there were already these business residential areas, like down by the ship store, down by where Townhouse Corner is, and these to say, hey, there are areas in town, and we were going to identify different areas where we already had kind of a mixed use, and maybe we wanted to try to regulate it for better residential, better business flow to help both residences and the businesses. And now that we've done the DB1, looking at DB2, I think this PMUD, I think that's where we're at now. Instead of those circular ones, there's some of this applied to the DB2 in the back. And I don't know that we.
Well, the mixed use, if I may just clarify on that, Bob, the mixed-use districts where we had historical mixed use in the past, that was sort of like a neighborhood commercial. That's different than PMUD. You know, with a planned unit development, that's where you have brand new development, completely brand new development. Not where you're putting mixed uses in the existing historical area. It's where you have all this undeveloped land. You say, okay, I'm going to go in and do a coordinated development, and I'm going to have residential, I'm going to have business. You know, and it was just because right now we don't really have.
This preceded our DB1.
Yeah, no.
We didn't have the concept of DB1.
No, we
weren't
didn't.
applying it to DB2. And we were looking, but I think we were looking at this kind of being that name longer. To me, there was a lot of other things that we might want to look at, but I was comfortable in kind of looking at where we've come so far, depending on the definitions and how they apply to the DB2. Is there anything specific in the land use that you think we ought to incorporate that we haven't?
Just the flexibility of design.
And how do we do that?
I mean,
I don't think there's, you know, I gave it some thought, and I was trying to think of what would prevent somebody to buy up a piece of land and put a mixed-use development in there with residential under our current DB2 district. And, you know, I'm not sure that there would be anything that would restrict anybody doing that, except for frontages of lots.
We have the residential restrictions.
yeah, the
Yeah, we do have residential
business.
restrictions.
So they're talking about turning, just putting the.
And that's where
Residential behind it.
prompted this whole thing, because right now it says residential, single-family, two-family, and multifamily by the residents is subordinate to an operating business use on the site. How do you deal with a 50-acre project? Where they want to put in some multifamily housing, or put in
Yeah, see,
something else involved in that. They do a coordinated development.
I
Forty-nine percent, that would be 49% is gonna be, subordinate means 51%. So 51% could be business and 49% of that's gotta be residential.
And they could say one building equal all of the residential costs. Yeah, see, I mean, those kind of things are hard. That's why the mixed use, and like I said, some of these places that I visited when I was looking at retirement, they had theaters and shops and walkways and coffee.
Sure, that's a PUD.
And then right behind it, they had little kind of, and they also incorporated over the store living, or in some of them as you got out a little bit, and one had even at the back end, although we had moved in after this development had started. I mean, they were huge. They were not bigger than Russell.
What's this?
I don't know.
Russell.
Virginia.
Yeah.
They were absolutely gorgeous. I mean, you could retire, go to your house, and go out, do all of your shopping, go to the movies, get your clothes done, do anything you wanted, and never leave that. Oh, I want to call it a house.
Little world.
Yeah.
And that is a PUD. That is the ultimate PUD. That's a planned community, because that doesn't happen organically.
Good. No, it was beautiful.
That is a planned community in which, frankly speaking, the objective is to make it as attractive as possible for residents to have a beautiful environment and to have businesses and support services all in one place. And they start with a, frankly speaking, an empty lot, empty big parcel of land, and they plan it. That's what makes it a planned unit development. And there's nothing that prevents that from occurring in this district, except it would be the opposite. In this district, you would have to have 49% of whatever it be square footage. I guess it would be square footage, has to be, can be residential, but 51% of it would have to be business. Based on what we got on item number 22 in here, which is the residential, single family, and two family. Basically, residential is a permitted use as long as it's subordinate to an operating business on the site.
I am either
That's the best use for.
going to have to take a break or I'm going to let him continue on with the question. I'm just going to go to the restroom now.
Good stuff.
But is that the best use of the area, the business district that have much residential?
That was the question.
Can't.
That was the question, because this does not really.
Let's say that 49% is single, multi-family dwelling. They got children in school, when you're going to school, you're taking away from the business. You're adding a burden to the tax rolls, like, in two ways. One is that someone dependent on services, then you're taking away from the business end that you no longer pay taxes.
Well, you're taking away, or you're adding to it, depending on what the business is. If the business is
Right,
service oriented, then you're adding customers to the business.
Right.
You know? Which is what Bob's talking about, and that's exactly how it's got to be designed, so that you have enough business to service the community, and that business can survive. There's enough critical mass for that business to survive. And, you know, your concern is, are we going to have giant, massive PUDs in the DB2 district? No. No, we're not. A couple of reasons for that. Number one, not enough land. Number two, you could do a 50-acre one, but that's a small PUD. And I could put in a retail center in the rural district, because that's just not enough mass.
50 acres by itself.
Will these PUDs be allowed? I thought we were talking about all over town.
That was originally what we were talking about, the PUDs.
I think that would make most residents a little nervous, and they wouldn't vote for that.
Yeah, well, no, we were talking about this PUD again. I mean, I'm going back to pull back this PUD thing. That's not, what we were saying last time is, do we want to explore the idea of having mini PUDs in the DB2 district? That's what Bob was, that's what we asked last time. Because this issue of how much residential, Roger brought up the issue, this right now would allow a lot of residential in the DB2 district. How do we control that? How do we control it? How do we prevent, I mean, let's say Houston comes in and there's just an example. Comes in and wants to do that, he's going to put in he's going to put in a business, a retail thing, or whatever.
Small mall.
Let's say he does that. And then he wants to put, multifamily housing around it. Is that what we want? Because right now he could do that. And I don't mean to single him out, I mean any.
Yeah.
Can you have a
But that's
golf
good.
course, can you have a golf course, example, since we're saying all over town, and have a PUD around it? You have enough acreage
Actually, where?
here in Arundel.
Could you have that? Sure.
Would it have to be specified for age,
You-
for residential?
Yes, you would want to make it age restricted because.
Like 55 and older, so that you wouldn't have a burden to the school system.
Well, you already have that provision in your ordinance right now, where you can double. Remember, gentlemen, you've got a provision right now, it's a sleeper provision in your multifamily conditional use section, which allows a person to double the density in any kind of development, no matter where it is, if it's 55 and older.
But it also stipulates, where we've been before, building units. Because you need a building permit for every unit, or vice versa. And with the number of in town, or the allotted number was 40.
Yeah. You would have to change that. For a PUD to actually, for a golf course community, you're talking about a golf course community. For a golf course community like that to work, you would have to change your growth ordinance. You'd have to say, look, this is something we want.
So for any PUD, you probably have to deal with the growth.
And or make a provision that developments under, a major development, under a planned use or mixed use development, those numbers are in addition to.
That's what we want. What if it's a kid, what good would it do though?
Well,
If you're going to 5 and older,
if
you
you're
would
going,
have
if you're going to, you're either going to approve it or disapprove it.
Well, if you get 60 units and half of them have kids, and it's
So I wouldn't have kids, that's what you're saying.
If it's 55, but not all PUDs.
Not all PUDs are gonna be 55.
No, I understand.
You can make it so they work.
But you bring up a good point. With the land available now, how big of a PUD is it?
Well, I'll tell you, you have more chance of getting a PUD in the BI district than you have getting a major manufacturing
Right.
facility in there right now.
Well, what about your septic system? There's gonna be a wetland.
All of those.
Actually, I would say that on the uphill side, you have a better chance, just like we did with the seasonal community. Look at it this way, think of your seasonal cottages as a PUD, because that's what it is. It just didn't have a commercial component. But that's what a PUD did. It's not like you guys don't know what that is, because you already have it.
Well, they did have commercial component idea about selling.
Yeah, but it wasn't integral to it.
Right.
It wasn't a component of it. It was not putting it in there for the purpose of servicing the community or, making making a business area in which the residents could live around and walk to work. Which is one of the things they do in PUDs. But, quite frankly, the only way PUD is going to work, or any kind of residential development that's dense like that would be if you can have, in fact, more building permits.
Where is it located around here, Maine?
What?
PUD.
Sable Oaks.
Huh?
Realamoth, Sable Oaks in Portland. Portland, Falmouth Country Club, Woodlands. I know there's some down here.
Woodgrass?
Dewgrass is a PUD. It didn't have as much commercial as they were hoping to have in there, but it does have the golf course, it does have the clubhouse. That's a PUD. It isn't the classic mixed use, what you're talking about in Virginia. That's a new community. Actually, those are PUDs, what they call new communities, because they probably had schools, right? Schools, post office, banks.
I don't know, I was just amazed with
Yeah.
what I saw.
PUD without schools would be villages in Florida.
Exactly.
Do you actually want to live in something like that?
You can.
A lot of people do.
John was wonderful. I mean, anything.
You're talking about Reston, New Columbia,
You could
all
have-
those
you
new
could have-
towns.
depending on what somebody
Western
wants,
Florida,
they can
or
have-
Reston, Virginia too.
Western Virginia.
Yeah.
In fact, the consultant who is working with us right now in Chesapeake worked on that.
It's just that, and it works great, it's like a little
Every
downtown,
extreme, obviously, you could imagine.
residential around it.
Central.
But, you know, frankly speaking, as I said, those are new communities.
Yeah.
And new communities require, a lot of money, a lot of market, a hot market. It's a huge investment, it's a 10-year investment. And quite frankly, very honestly, I'll tell you the truth, gentlemen, I've designed 3 of them myself. And they don't exist. You know why? Market just wasn't hot enough for me. It wasn't sustainable. It wasn't something that could be
There's
continued.
also resistance from the communities, like they do the Scarborough Dunston corners, I
Yeah.
think,
That was
the-
Chamber. That was Chamber.
and it
Where there's
just couldn't
Eaglebrook,
fly.
I don't know if you guys ever heard of, Eagle Spring, what's it called? Nunsuch River Golf Course is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a PMUD called Eaglebrook. I was the project manager of it. That's where Blue Cross Blue Shield was supposed to go. That was where they were relocated. We actually lured them out of Portland. It involved a whole, that was actually more commercial than it was residential. It only had 25 executive lots, that's it. That was one St. James Place where now the main medical center is out on Scarborough and Route 1. St. James Place, that was a business park and residential.
Kmart?
Yeah, where old Kmart was, that was St. James Place. There were a
St.
lot of
James there.
Oceanwood in Saco. Oceanwood was a mixed use with commercial and recreational facilities. They just didn't work because there wasn't enough. Quite frankly, there just wasn't enough of a sustainable market.
Well, see, that's the, I mean, if we look, I mean, these
Those are
are,
new communities.
yeah, these are lofty, I mean, this whole Route 1 quarter, thinking about it being built up, and then all of these buildings in the back, I mean, we're not gonna see that. That's not gonna happen.
Well, it'll happen over time, but it'll be a long time,
Yeah.
but it'll happen.
So,
It's happening in film. Yeah.
so,
Yeah, but first of all, they have infrastructure.
but if there was anything big that wanted to come in, I would think that we'd want to really booster our provision in here where the board can champion something and get it to the town. Because I think anything is, by our regulation, if we feel that something is appropriate, we work with the individual, we can move it through the selectmen, move it to town vote.
we have done that.
And
Butter and the seasonal cottages.
Seasonal cottages.
It's way-
I mean, I think with a good project, a good planned project, we can make those things happen in regulation. And I think to John's point before, he doesn't want to lose some of that kind of stuff, and neither do I, to make sure that we have those 3 options.
Lose what's the, I'm confused.
To lose an applicant's ability, 1, to either get enough votes, petition to have a project go before for votes, and 10% of the last voters, I think. Either have the planning board be the champion of a project, work with an applicant and or the selectmen. And the selectmen then, the way that it works by our thing, they would usually task us to work with an applicant to see what has to be done. But I think anything can be built with those 3 provisions that are in it.
Which provisions I'm confused? And the ability to change the zoning regs, which you said. The only problem with that, there's 2 problems with that. Number 1 is it's very time consuming, as we've proven. It can be very time consuming.
I don't think the delays, for instance, Kate, I don't think that was delays from this plan.
No, I won't say that.
Or from the town. I think that was all approved in a year and a half.
I'm not-
That major project we were taking in.
Right, but what I'm saying is that way you're being reactive instead of being proactive. You're being reactive, you'll only do that, so what you're gonna do is instead of inviting somebody to come in and do that, and it's zone specified for,
what you're gonna do is he's gonna have to come and approach us and really wanna be there. And that land won't be reserved, it might be nickel and dimed, you know.
My only point being, you move forward with this strategic planning and the view, et cetera, but we're not hamstringing ourselves by saying that we want this character area, we want it to be nice. I mean, there's still other options that are available to all of the citizens of this town.
Okay, the only reason I brought it up as a potential in this district was number one, again, to deal with this issue of how much residential. The second thing is, and John would speak to this, you know, it takes time to make a zoning change. At least in this town, it takes time. We gotta wait all the way till June. Correct?
Either to June or to the special election.
The special election.
Or,
Yeah.
very simple,
Special
have a
election.
special
Takes
town
time.
meeting.
Yeah, it takes
And,
time.
and everybody else who wanted it, or who wanted it before, per se,
If it's really that important and that beneficial to the town, it would be worth having them. Special government. If it wasn't, I don't think the board would change. We've had other things come in that ought to go through regular process.
Can you hear, has anyone come forward even hinting that they have something that they want to propose in the town of Arundel that they should talk about doing right now?
But, you know, that's not, that, you know,
is it all talk?
no?
No.
I don't think so.
I think a lot of it is to the economic development committee and their outreach, is that what we're talking about?
You know, we haven't seen a lot, and one of the reasons we haven't, is, quite frankly, we've been in an economic downturn. Nobody's been willing to make much investment. We've seen, you know this deal is from the currency situation, with the Fed's been QE. There's a lot of uncertainty about what that does. That's why all the money's moved in the stock market, certainly not in the real estate market. So there's a lot of uncertainty. I still think it's out there. I mean, everybody's getting buoyed up by what's happening, but there's still a lot of uncertainty. We're seeing small stuff happen. We're seeing the excess capacity in residential house lots being consumed at this point. That's picked up a lot. We'll see projects coming our way as those lots get gobbled up, and there's no more available lots. We had a surplus. And as that surplus diminishes, we'll probably start seeing some pressure. Is there a great rush? No. But Arundel is a target. We're seeing people interested in Arundel as a residential area right now. Now, from our perspective, from a fiscal standpoint, well, from a community standpoint, it's great that people are looking at Arundel and are looking at wanting to build more houses. From a municipal fiscal standpoint,
Disaster.
it's not a disaster, but it's not
No,
positive. It's not a positive fiscal response. You know how you mentioned tonight what's a positive fiscal impact? Positive fiscal impact is where you get more revenue than the cost of services you're providing for that use. As you well know, in residential, unless it's 55 and older, not children-oriented residential, it's a negative cash flow. Period. And that's the way it is. So, people who move into town, the people who are in town, or the people who move into town, the residences, do provide the demand for services and goods, local services and goods, whether they're going to be here in Arundel, or they're going to be in Pittsfield, or they're going to be in Kennebunk. Yeah, the more people you add, the more demand for services. I think what you can find from Chesapeake Group is you're not going to be very pleased to see where they're spending the money, because it's not going to be in Arundel, and it's going to be in various key locations. Quite frankly, you know where they are. I don't have to tell you. You know where people spend their money. So, would it be a market for future Arundel businesses? Sure, but they're going to have to compete with those major service retail centers that people go to right now.
Oh,
the market basket comes in, it's gonna be even more.
so we're not moving with any of this?
Well, what you're saying is, we get back to the question of what are we gonna do about number 22? Does everybody feel safe with number 22? Because I think it was Roger who originally was concerned about, you know, how much residential is too much residential? How much resident? We have a limited amount of space for business purposes in the DB2. If we say you can put in residential, is this sufficient to make sure we keep enough land available for business purposes? It's 4951. That's what that means.
Subordinate doesn't mean accessory, it means it just has to be
It's less than. So that could be, frankly speaking, it would be 50.5 and 49.
And somehow you gotta figure it out.
49.
There's no.
I might do it by square footage, you know.
If people come in, they come in. You know, if it were 60, 40, 70, what does that mean?
Well, what it means
The
is,
growth permit, the limits of the growth permits. So even if someone wanted 60 units, it would take 10 years to
Yeah,
get.
but you gotta look at the title of this, it says downtown business district, it doesn't say downtown residential district.
Yeah.
We're building a business district here, how much residential units do you want in a business district?
as I said, residential can in fact provide a population that would serve, or, you know, would patronize downtown businesses, but, you know, frankly speaking, you need a lot.
Remember, almost all of that DB2, I mean, that's what we're calling, remember those, almost all of the DB2 was in R4 or R3.
Yeah. It was
So it's
residential.
residential right now. Okay? So, there ain't been any movement on it.
No.
So, I mean, if you get some business, you get some residents, even if you got a little bit more residents, then you get business. Actually, you get more people, you get more business. You get more business, you might get more people. I mean, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
So you're saying it doesn't make any difference if it's 60, 40, 20, 30,
To me,
it's gonna come in?
Yeah, I mean, that's how it's going, I mean, you have a limit, and we have the thing, and if somebody comes in with a great plan, there's a way to try to even move that forward. I mean, we know we can.
So we're happy with number 22 then?
Are you guys? Well, I mean, I'm not hard.
Well, I agree with Roger, I mean, if this is gonna be business, okay, fine.
But, you know.
If it ain't gonna be business, why the hell are we doing it at all?
Well, Bob brings out a good point, there's a lot of residential in this district already.
I mean, according to everything else prior to this, between the comprehensive plan and everything, always, you didn't want any businesses in the residential zones, so why are you gonna turn around and put residentials in the business zone?
How do other communities treat it? I mean, some of system neighboring communities, how do they treat it? Was it an evolution, what Saco is what it is?
Yeah.
Well, I think almost everywhere you go, you get the smattering or the most, even in Bruce Rock, is almost a perfect community. You get a little bit of business every once in a while, a house, because they were kind of there and business. But you go one street away, and there's always residences. That's where the residences are. You know, if you're going to have a central, I mean, to me, that's the DB1. We're trying to attract something along that road. That is going to drive everything else. If that were to be really successful, business went in, you could almost see some big businesses trying to grab off the bat. If it doesn't, one goes in now and one goes in 2 years from now, well, then maybe you're going to see residents going there also.
And you know, that's always the concern. I mean, you're right. You mentioned Saco. Saco's mainly residential. Downtown Saco's primarily residential.
And once
Yeah.
you leave Main Street, you go to the back streets.
Yeah, it's all residential. Got a couple businesses here. And the issue is, remember why we're expanding the DB2, which we're expanding the DB2 because the BI district is not a very conducive area for business right now. I'm not saying you can't put business in there, but we have a huge amount of area in there, of which there's been no pressure on, because A, there's no desire, there's no, that kind of residential pressure, and there's other areas that are easier to develop. And at the same time, we were trying to do the DB2 to make it easier to put businesses down in a place where it was much easier to develop the land than it is in the BI district. So our concern was, if we're going through that effort, we want to make sure that that land isn't all filled up with residential. Kind of defeats the purpose. Kind of what Marty was saying, you can't make it exclusive because, quite frankly, it's not now. And do you necessarily want to make it? Maybe the DB1 in front is, the DB2 should be mixed. And all I was trying to do is get an idea of how much you wanted to regulate that. And right now, if we've got this subordinate, that means it's 51, 49.
And if it gets out again one way or the other, you can always change it. What I would like to see, we're going on 10 o'clock. So for our next meeting, I just want to not lose a couple of these things because they're very important. Next meeting, we'll do the gateway.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll have some of the maps and maybe even some of those folks to come in. I'd like to go through the definitions, we'll be able to have those. And then the other big part of the DB2 area was the mining. We haven't ever gone back to that. We need to make a decision.
That was B1, BI.
BI, and that, okay, so that's an outstanding one. I thought part of it was in.
No, it's all BI, it was all
It's all BI.
Okay, so we've never made any decision because
Well,
we
yeah,
haven't.
the only thing we haven't made a decision of is, we just had some technical standards, right, John? So we had to just make some additional technical standards.
We haven't ever taken a vote to say if it was going to be allowed in that area, right? Because we didn't get all of the information.
No.
I don't think we have.
Last time we took,
voted by it.
We needed the technical standards, and then we had, after we got the technical.
we walked around and
standards,
walked around, and then we danced away from it.
How we were going to allow it.
It's pretty close to agreement. I don't know if we
Yeah,
voted on it.
No, we didn't vote on it.
No, we didn't vote, but I don't
We had
think we're
batted
far
it
off.
around quite a bit, but we
We
were
didn't have
discussing standards. But remember what we were talking about was the type of approach where you would get a full plan so that over a set period of time, a certain amount of material would be removed and the area would be left in a state that could be developed.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of things that weren't in there as well. I mean, there was the operations, how long we want to.
Right, those are the parts we had to decide on.
Yeah, just
Well, I think some of those were just normal to normal mining, or normal earth removal standards.
I have an unrelated quick question on the table. You have minimum floor area for your family units or residence. I wonder why we even need that. Who cares if someone builds a small unit? Maybe the Japanese use the small spaces.
Taxes.
Taxes?
Taxes.
Have you seen these new complexes in New York City?
Yeah,
400 square feet.
yeah.
40 square feet.
They got a refrigerator, they come down and build them.
I don't know what that looks like. Yeah.
Isn't there a standard, I think there's also a minimum standard to have as a living quality that's set, right?
In cars,
Yeah, that's US, yeah, that's actually regarding property.
Yeah, no, but.
Minimum square footage
that
per
applies,
family.
that applies, yeah, that applies when it goes through the
That's
school,
how- that's how
school
everything-
house. So there is a minimum.
There is a minimum. The idea was was A
Taxable.
to, well, it was A to set the, I mean, remember, this is actually more dense than our current standards, which say one house, 1 acre. This is allowing for denser residential development.
Okay.
Take a look at it and put it in perspective of 1 unit, 1 acre. Okay? And then you go, whoa.
We have that
So
already.
it's a much denser development down there.
And
We
this
already
is,
have that.
and this is.
No,
gonna
this
be-
is more, this is double it. It's actually double.
This is
So what do you
the
put in one
DD2?
house, half acre?
Yeah, see, that's what I thought we were just having a conversation that in DB2, you could only do 50/50, you had to have a business. Now you're saying, you know,
No, that would be still, what do you call it, subordinate.
Still subordinate too.
okay,
Okay. I'm good.
finance report?
Planners report, okay. Business is picking up on the residential side, as I said. I think I mentioned this to you before.
How many permits have we gone through so far?
I think they've gone through about 15. I think it's about 15. A lot of rehab, but now we're getting single-family homes.
Yeah.
The new single-family homes are getting a lot of inquiries about lots. And problem lots, problem private ways, so getting inquiries from people who want to buy. They don't come back after the year, but I'm getting inquiries. I have, just this week, in the last 2 weeks since I last talked to you guys, we've done 2 more approvals for private way exemptions under the 7B, 1B standard that we passed last year. So we've got 2 more exemptions that will allow 3 more houses, and I've got 2 more in the hopper right now. Another planner's report of interest to, another development of interest to the board is that we also have, I've heard from our friends up in Skowheat, or Millinocket, excuse me, and they're coming back to log the Cannon property. And that's on Curtis Road. You may recall we were ready to approve their 60% cut, and they had an access problem. We resolved the access problem. So that's, they'll be coming back to us momentarily. Let's see, what else do we have going on? If you haven't done it yet, please fill out the community survey that's on the website. This is the survey that's being done by the Chesapeake Group. You'll notice it's a little different than many other surveys we've done. They're going to be asking you about some of your spending habits and some of your where you go to get various services and goods.
That's still active?
Yeah.
What do you mean, it's still active?
I mean,
It hasn't been out that long.
Oh, it's been out a month, at least.
Yeah.
That's not long.
It's going to be active for about another month. So if you haven't filled it out, please fill it out. It's absolutely critical you do so. Right? The more, obviously these surveys are only significant if we have a high enough high participation rate is statistically significant one. We want to get we want to do the cross tabulations and for various kinds of groups and demographics. The only way we can get significance is if we have a large enough sample for each one of those demographics. So it's really important as many, and encourage your friends, encourage your neighbors to fill it out. It doesn't cost you anything. It's fairly easy to do with SurveyMonkey on the site. And those who don't want to do it that way, we have hard copies. I'll take the time for the hard copy. So, Kate's, yes. I had an interview with the Village today, which is.
I referred him back to you.
Yeah, thanks.
The Village?
The Village, it's a newspaper. It's a periodic, it's actually.
Never heard of it.
It's out of Benefit.
That doesn't mean anything.
It's a once a month paper, and they did I had to give an interview today about Kate's. Kate's is doing well. They're still hope to get this done by July 1st is their target date to get it complete. They're going great gangbusters. I've been out there a couple times. Jim's been out there. It's great because it's working. It's coming together. Dan is back to being himself again. He's, you know, hopeful and encouraged and vivacious, so it's looking really good. They want they want to get their cattle in and they want to get their barn up.
Well, before they turn butter or after?
Just
No.
keep it away from my house.
They want to do
up on
it
the hill
as
where they cut that
part
wood.
of their operation.
Up on the hill where they cut that wood, that's where it's going.
They're looking for vertical integration. They're gonna produce the milk on site and it's not enough, they're gonna produce enough milk to.
They're gonna run about 60 heads.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good amount.
Very popular for
Yes.
6 or 10.
Yeah, remember when they were talking about actually putting out beef cattle?
Yeah, for show, a couple out in front.
A couple out and show, and now
Should
they're
have had that stuff done.
really serious. So this is terrific. I think this is really looking good. And you'll be interested, Howard is, the Chesapeake Group is very hot on this whole operation. I think I told you last time they had an hour and a half conversation with Dan. And they're really checking into a lot of the agricultural research. People who are involved in agricultural research and very interested in Chesapeake Group is really pushing hard on that. And they keep thinking Arundel can create its own niche for that kind of industry. So,
What about CMP?
Who knows?
I got a call last winter, actually it was last fall, saying they were gonna put it in this year. In Arundel. But I haven't seen anything happen. They're probably waiting until, May or June. But we'll probably hear helicopters bringing in poles.
How about, court?
The plaintiff has asked for an extension to file a rebuttal to our submission, and the judge granted a 14-day recess on that before we can start considering the briefs. Whether or not we do a rebuttal to their rebuttal, it's yet to be seen. I haven't talked to Leah about that. That's pretty much where we stand there. Let's see, other things that are occurring. Chesapeake Group's going to be up again the last week of May. And they'll be meeting, I guess, with one more series of focus groups, and then we're going to, I guess the following month, we're going to have our community-wide meeting with Chesapeake Group. That should be interesting to see what happens there. We should start getting some products from them in terms of their results. They're doing their statistical analysis and the shocking analysis right now. So we should start getting some harder facts. Quite frankly, I don't know if I reported this last time, but they've done basically an analysis of underrepresented businesses, underrepresented sectors. They did it first for Arundel and everything was underrepresented, so they said, well, we're going to go bigger than that because Arundel, is underrepresented in everything. So they did it on a York County basis, and it was pretty frightening to see. They compared York County to other parts of the nation that had similar populations, and it's pretty amazing how underrepresented we are in so many sectors, economic sectors. That's exactly what they said. It's an incredible opportunity. Maine keeps looking at itself as being downtrodden and not having all of these industries, when we should be looking and saying, these are great opportunities, and we should stop being afraid of going after, businesses that are in these underrepresented sectors. We should start pushing. And so Howard was saying the same thing to Arundel, saying, you're shooting low and hitting it every time. So we got to start thinking big.
Good. You mentioned the seasonal cottage law. Anything happened with these guys at all?
Nothing at all. I have not heard from them. They had received an approval from the state for the town to essentially submit a TIF application in order to fund, their request was that the town would create a TIF out of that, and then the town would bond the infrastructure and help them finance the infrastructure and get it off the ground. And we said, okay, you get your program together and give us some pro forma, and then we'll take it to the selectmen, and the selectmen will make a determination whether they want to take it to the taxpayers. Because this is a vote that the taxpayers are going to have to do. It's a major, it's a bond.
Well, the thing is,
Major liability.
hey, the only thing is, tell them to take it to Kennebunkport because that's what they want, Kennebunkport first.
Well, they changed the name already, remember?
No, they didn't tell you. They said they added Arundel to it. But it was Kennebunkport Arundel, but it was Kennebunkport first.
Well, here's what's happening right now. If you think about it, gentlemen, next March, their permit expires.
But does it, since they've already put the infrastructure in?
They haven't done anything.
Wait a minute. We wouldn't have water pressure if it wasn't for them.
No, there's an argument there, Mark.
I made that same argument.
Because turning them, the only way anything is ever done, per se, in town, is that the liability of a business or a business corporation.
Well, that was an agreement.
No, I'm just saying, anything.
Okay, that's true.
Because the town doesn't want to do anything for the businesses.
No, the town doesn't want to spend any money. The town's got right now.
Taxpayers are aware of spending money too. It's not the town, it's the taxpayer.
It's the town. It has been for the
Yeah,
town.
the town is a taxpayer, the taxpayer is a town.
All of the money's got to go to them. Ain't anything else.
No, that's about it.
Okay, any of the board have any other business they'd like to bring up? No scheduling, no issues, no problems?
Just one question, what is the current number of building permits? Is that supposed to be recalculated every year?
32 years. 40. It was 36 or 40. And probably since the last couple of years, it's gone down.
It was 20, last time we voted on it, it was, I think, it was averaging 28. Remember we had to discuss, should we lower it?
Right.
No, we don't need to lower it because we're not even coming close to the lower.
Yeah,
It
but
was
every
a couple of years ago or more.
It was 2 years ago. We might have to
Probably
do it
good for
again.
us.
It has to be redone every so often. I thought it was every year. but maybe
Probably
it's
won't
not.
change much, because if you haven't only issued 15 building permits, and last year you issued less.
Well, it should be low.
It's going to be,
Yeah, it's lower than the long average.
which is good because we don't have to force, we don't have to limit the number of buildings, which is what we would have to do otherwise.
Well, as long as you're not meeting it, though, all you gotta do is say leave it to sit.
No.
No, you
You
have
have
to,
to
you have to
average the
make it
last
that.
3 years.
Yeah, you have to adjust it every year. Or you don't have to adjust it, but
Every
you have
2 years.
to account for the average.
As a minimum.
As a minimum, yeah.
As a minimum, you
Right.
have to adjust it to account for, you can put in anything higher, you have to meet the minimum growth standard of the state. As long as we're getting less permits than what we have, then we would always be good.
So you can put in more, but why would you want to do that? More than the minimum, why would you want to do that?
Well, for revenue.
No, it cost you more.
I mean, we're not there, but why?
No, but
why-
you keep adjusting. Well, it's not just for revenue, but it's also, the whole purpose of this, the way I see it anyway, is to even the growth curve. So you don't get your ups and downs, but you get a gradual ramp up as demand goes, and then you get a gradual letdown as demand subsides, like we have, it's been subsiding. So we don't want to shoot up to sky high all of a sudden, we couldn't accommodate.
That puts a bigger burden. But the other, and I want to get into fiscal planning and everything, but towns base all of their plans on the number of houses they got, what that projected number is. to change that every year, every 2 years, every 3 years. I mean, the fire department puts it on based on the number of calls, services, et cetera. They know to start, we've had 16, we know we've got this limit. It's so much easier to leave the thing alone and everybody's plans stay the same. Everybody doesn't have to adjust their plans of what growth it, as long as, now, if you get up to the top, then you got a problem because you gotta be compared to all of the other counties around you. But as long as you're not meeting your thing, I mean, all you're by lowering the number, you're just adding more potential for a resident not to be able to do his house. That's what a lower number means.
Yeah.
It's the only thing.
But we don't benefit by having more residences. So you allow for a minimum, but you don't want to encourage that kind of residential growth that doesn't do the community any good.
Well, we already have that small number. I mean, remember when we established that number, there were peak areas higher. We came down to a low number already. That's great. And if you follow the life cycle of a home, there's 3 key factors, like my home now, and Marty's home, maybe your home, and so on. Started out with a bunch of kids and a big burden to this town. There is none anymore. As your population ages, the inverse happens. They get substantial money for the service they have to provide me and every other elder in this town. And it's becoming an older populated town. It's also a population this town should go after, is why you have elder housing and all the other things, because you don't have a burden on the municipality. The whole dynamic of towns and town building is changing, and how you have to look at it. So where it never was before, because there were 15 kids in this one house and ambulance services and school and all of that, now there's a little old man and a little old lady, and that's it. Same house.
But after that little old man and little old lady, all buys a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cycle.
Well, this way, but there's a cycle. The population in
But
general is.
we don't want to be caught, the last cycle, it was a little over, more than time to handle. They put the portable school and all that stuff. We don't want to be there
That
again.
was because of all of the special needs that people got known.
I do believe our growth ordinance specifies that it has to be recalculated based on the last 3 years. I don't think we get to set it. But I think our ordinance specifies that it's an average of the last 3 years redone every so often.
But I think he's right. I think we have to, once we've reached that average, if it's low and we want to issue more permits, then we've got the option to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think the ordinance gives us that option right now.
Oh, well,
I have to reread it, but
Yeah, I
No,
know.
you have to
I
be-
do, and you may be right.
You have to be at your maximum for a period of time so that in case it needs to be increased. But also too, if you're below your minimum, which is your maximum, you can reduce it, or it automatically is reduced. So that you don't have open permits, because they're not carried from year to year.
right.
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn, a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Night.
All right.
This was.
And we're adjourned at 10:50.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to read that too, John, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I have to read it too, because you know what, I think you're right, I think
the dynamics in towns though it's just,
It's not only the town, it's the whole state.
oh, it's the whole nation.
State has a mandate though.
Yeah, no, for the formula, but I mean, this is what's happening across the nation. We're getting older. And
The old guys are bailing out the kids.
the old guy, yeah, well,
Yeah.
half of them,